Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family, we chose this one. This is episode 110 of Fast and the Furious, Lap 7. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by Focus Factor, nutrition for the brain. Improves memory, concentration, and focus. Focus Factor.
Well, shout out Focus Factor. What a way to kick off Lap 7. This is overstuffed episode, Joe. I will tell you that much right now. We've got, after the break, we got Nico and Kevo coming in to talk about the Fast and Furious kickoff Lap 7
First
in
time they ever
earnest,
saw it, yeah.
in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to cover the deleted scenes from the Fast and the Furious, which we have never seen before, which, hoo boy, let us...
Fucking awesome, yeah.
Oof. We are also going to announce the nominees, and you don't even know this yet. I only looked last night. The nominees in the Fast and the Furious Too Fast, Too Forever Hall of Fame. Who got inducted, who got kicked off the ballot, who's going to have to wait to get back. We're going to find out.
I have no idea.
But first, Joe, extracurricular activities. Before we get into any of that, what have you been up to since we last recorded? What do we do? The Getaway, and we also talked to Nico and Kevo about this movie.
Nothing much. I was watching some Lost to catch up, because I know that we're going to talk about Lost on our next time we record, right?
Starting next episode, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so I've just been watching a bunch of backlog Lost. Nothing super crazy. Watching TV. We got Love After Lockup coming back. That's the one I told you about. That's like people have like prison pen pals, and they come out and they think that they're going to be like a rehabilitated real person, and they're not. So that's what
Devastating.
Yeah, I know. Big surprise. Like every time you watch it, you're like, yeah, it's never gonna work. It's not even like a reality show where you're like, oh man, like I'm rooting for them. It's like, no, it's not gonna work.
Cool. I don't know. I've just been watching things. Nothing really to report of note. I did tell you that I finally beat that mobile game Forza Street. Do not play it. Like, it's not bad. Like, I like the idea of it, and I liked getting actual Xbox achievements on my phone. That was cool, but it's like, it's so grindy, which I knew was happening, but it's just like, it's exhausting. I was telling you, there's a combination of like luck and grinding, and finally done. I have broken free. Like you said to me, I've always been free. I just needed to realize it. I know that, but it's also like, I wanted that last thing. I showed you that 0.09% of all Xbox users have beaten the game. Fewer than 1 in 1,000 have beaten the game.
I would be willing to bet you're probably like the oldest person that's beaten that game.
No, I don't think so. I think a lot of the people who beat it are probably like, and this is just a guess.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of the people who have beaten this game are people who have been Xbox gamers since like the 360 came out and have been really into achievements. Because I feel like you don't keep playing it unless you're going for that achievement completion. I really think that's the thing. It's either like kids who have just, because I don't know if people care about I don't know. People who are our age, I think, high schoolers and maybe, or people who were in high school when the 360 came out and like a little bit older. I don't think this game is good enough for younger people to be like, oh no, I'm gonna stick with this. Like, I don't think there's nothing really appealing about it. It's just there's three courses, and it's the same mechanism every time.
3 courses.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Luckily, there's auto race. I'm not going to get into it. Don't play it. I mean, whatever. If you're into Xbox achievements, it's fun, but boy. I also was playing the actual Forza Horizon. I showed you a car that I got, which I had never heard of, the Apollo Intensa Emozione. Do you know Apollo as the manufacturer?
No, I had no idea what this thing is. I'm guessing it's like some weird hypercar manufacturer that made, like when you sent the picture, I was like, oh, this is probably some weird hypercar company that's made like 10 of these. And it was like, yes.
And there were 10. Yep. Apparently it's a German company, a German car manufacturer. This car just looks like the Batmobile. There were 10 ever made. It was just one of the things in Forza.
Do they build the motors? Do you know this? Or do they use like Porsche motors or something?
Apollo, they're tied with Audi somehow.
Okay, so they probably
the guy
use,
who
like,
founded
Audi
it used to work for Audi, I think. So I don't know if they use Audi parts or not, but the guy, basically a guy from Audi moved over.
It's hard to make an engine from scratch, right? Like, you usually use an engine from a manufacturer that makes engines, and then you can like tune it and like build a different body for it. So I was guessing that they probably, if it was a German car company, Audi makes sense. I bet that they use Audi engines, but I have no idea.
It looks like they've only maybe made 3 different cars. They have the Gumpert Apollo, which is maybe a different manufacturer altogether than the Apollo Arrow and the Intensa Emozione. I just saw this car and I was like, oh, this is a badass looking car. And I was going to be like, let me try to get you to guess. And I was like, I'm like, let me Google it just to be safe. It's like, oh, there's no way you would ever guess this.
Yeah, I had no idea what this was.
Plus, I can't describe it other than like, it looks like a Batmobile.
Yeah, and now all these hypercars kind of look the same. name, like all the McLarens and stuff like that. Like all these fucking cars look like a Batmobile. So
And the only other thing I wanted to bring up was that this week, as this episode comes out, unless something catastrophic happens in the next 4 days, baseball is back by now.
oh yeah, I was watching a little preseason yesterday.
Yeah, I have not watched a single minute of that. I'm just like I still don't. The what I wanted to bring up was that we've been trying to coordinate how we're going to play fantasy baseball this year because, as you know, take a
Dude,
drink. Fantasy baseball is very important to my group of friends. We're trying to figure out how you take a season that is normally 25 weeks long and condense it into a 9-week season.
dude, my NHL fantasy playoffs died in the middle of it. So like I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do because it's like it's gonna start in the playoffs with like not all the teams
Right.
and the players. Like I didn't even address it to the rest of the group yet. Like I was just
I
like,
think it's just you just have to take a mulligan, just be like, no, we're going to do it again next year or whatever, right?
that's I think right. Like because it's like what do you do? Like what if you have like a bunch of players from a team that's like just out now?
I don't know. I don't know. It's unfair. I mean, it's not, you know.
Oh, the thing that sucks the worst is like if we're like, oh, okay, this season just counted, we'll just count regular season stats. I was in the lead, so
Oh right, yeah, you were saying this. I think back when the NHL paused, you're like, "There's nothing I can do because I'm like winning in my matchup and I won the regular season. Like, no matter what a decision I make, I basically win, and so like,
yeah,
it can't be up to me, but like it has to be up to you. So I think you just gotta like you be like, all right, we're just gonna. It
Mulligan's
was
the best
fun.
answer. Yeah, like we'll just retry again next year. Is like essentially what we have to do.
So normally what we do is we have 19 regular season weeks. 6 teams make the playoffs. There's 12 teams in our league, and we have 2 divisions of 6. And
Yeah,
so the top seed in each division gets a bye, and then the next 4 best teams across either division make the playoffs. So it could be, in theory, 5 in 1. Like the 6 best teams in the league could all be in one division, but the 5 in that one and then the top from the other one would always make it.
which
So like
makes
the top
sense. That's
seed
fair. Yeah,
always gets it. So
cool.
what we're doing this year instead is we're doing a 7-week regular season, and we're doing a 2-week World Series, where it's just the top 2 teams, I think. But the way
Total
that we're
overall.
determining it, yes, top 2 overall, because we're basically abolishing divisions this year because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Because we also had like I would custom make our schedule out of the 19 weeks. 10 of those would be against your division because they're, you play each person in your division twice, right? So
Yep.
you would
Yep.
have the final 5 weeks of the regular season. This is my friend's idea, my friend Matt's idea, who's the other commissioner with me. He had the idea that like it should mean more. Like in baseball, a lot of September you're playing against like traditionally the normal September, you're playing against your division, right? So the Pirates would play like if they're in a pennant race, they'll play a lot against the Cardinals and the Cubs and
Yeah.
whatever because you're battling them for the playoff spot, right? For
Yep.
the division lead or whatever.
Makes
So I was
sense.
like, cool, we can do that. So we have 5 at the end. So you'd have 10 of those, and then you play the other division entirely once, and then the 3 teams in the other division, if there were 3 that made the playoffs, you would play them an extra time. So basically, it evened out. So like better teams played better teams, worse teams played worse teams. So it was a pretty balanced schedule overall.
That's cool.
This year, we're throwing all that out. And we're instead using a thing that I kind of created that we have named the Power Joeys. And what it basically is it's kind of head to head, but against every team in the division or every team in the league. So it's kind of like a roto on a week by week basis, but it's head to head standings. So what it is you take your stats and I throw them all into a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And then you have like all 12 teams, like all the runs, right? So like if I'm playing 11 other people, if I have more runs than everyone, I get 11 wins.
Okay.
If I have more runs than like 9 of the people, I get 9 wins and 2
You rank
losses.
them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like a roto, but it resets every week. So what we're doing this year is for the 7 weeks, we're all playing the same team because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you're playing because you're playing against everyone.
Yeah.
So we're all playing the same opponent 7 weeks in a row, and we're doing a 7-week Power Joeys, and the 2 best teams from that play the World Series, which is a 2-week regular head-to-head, the only actual head-to-head matchup all year.
This is kind of cool because it's like the best team theoretically will win this. It's a very fair way to do it.
Right. And like it's already chaos. Like there's already like it's not enough games and whatever, but like we had a bunch of different ways of possibly doing it. We thought about doing like an entire like no regular season, just having like kind of like a double elimination playoff thing. We're like that seems complicated. This seems like the most kind of old school baseball where like back in the I don't remember 70s maybe 80s before there were actual playoffs, it would just be like the best team from each league would just play in the World Series.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's just do a simple thing, and then for third place, who gets their money back, we're just going to continue the Power Joeys into the playoffs, and they're going to be 2 more periods, so that whoever has like the best of the 10 worst teams, so the 2 not vying for the cup,
Yeah.
whoever has the best there is going to get their money back. So like
Cool.
it's a cool thing. It's going to be chaos. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it's the best we can do.
It'll be fun. It'll be something different. It's a good way to
Yeah.
like break it up because it's like this is a wacky season anyway, so it's like always gonna be fucked. And if this is fun, cool. If it's not, you're like it was a shitty season anyway, so what does it matter?
Yes, exactly. So I'm finally kind of optimistic for baseball. I didn't think it was going to happen. I still don't know that we're going to have a full season, but it's going to be back. All sports are going to be back
Plus,
soon-ish.
dude, you have to like how you were saying like your players got injured. Like you're gonna have like COVID weeks now, where like a team
Well,
just
yeah.
gets like
So yes.
ravaged,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. So like you're gonna have like a dude that's like, oh man, I really need to get whatever stat this week, and it's like half your team just gets COVID, and they're gonna be like, I'm just last. Like you just have nobody playing. So
Well, so there were a couple different things. So there's this guy Yasiel Puig, who I guess is best known for being on the Dodgers. He's on the Dodgers for a while.
yeah,
Then I
yeah,
think he
yeah.
was in the Indians last year. He was a free agent. Like he's not like one of the best players in the league, but he's a really good player. Like he's a solid contributor to a fantasy team. And he was a free agent. So my one friend drafted him because we're all like, "Ooh, like he's good, but like he doesn't have a team. Who knows where he's going to sign?" It's kind of a gamble to bid on him in the auction, right? And so my one friend got him, and he signed with the Braves. And then 2 days later was like, "Well, I have COVID," and so he wound up not signing with the Braves. And so it like went to this like from being like a question mark to a great fit for him because like the Braves are a young team and
Yeah.
he could like be in the middle of a good lineup. And then well, now I'm not on a team, and so just like it's an absolute mess. My
Oh
best
yeah.
player, the best player in the league, Mike Trout, his wife is about to give birth, and so
Oh, so he's done.
He considered sitting out the entire season. As of right now, it's still up in the air. I think he's going to play. The Yankees just signed Garrett Cole, former Pittsburgh Pirate Garrett Cole,
Yes.
to the biggest contract in baseball history.
Yep.
His wife literally just had a baby, and so like he was considering sitting out, but he's going to play. It's absolute insanity.
On a similar note with the COVID in sports, did you see like JJ Watt saying like that the NFL announced like they're gonna start camp in 2 weeks, but they haven't told them like when they're gonna test, how they're gonna
Yes.
test, and like all this shit, and we're like, oh god, man, like there's no football season happening this year.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like these leagues are more about obviously about finances than safety or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, of
But they're
course.
trying but like from what I've heard, the amount of players tested in both the MLB and the NFL, like the positive tests are like very very low, which is good. But it's also like it
Very
could get
scary.
really
It could
bad
get
in a
bad.
hurry.
Yeah. Yep.
In the shorter season, the if I mean keeping COVID out of it for a second, I was saying back in February and March, like after I drafted my team and all these guys on my team got hurt, like my team is actually better now for a short season than it would be for a long season, which is a very weird place to be. I mean, one of the three guys that I spent a lot of money on in the draft had Tommy John, and he's out for this year and probably
Oh,
most of
fun.
next year. So
Nice.
he's done. But like everybody else who was like, oh, this guy is hurt, or this guy might not play, or he has an innings limit, or whatever, it's all kind of coming up good for me. So
Yeah.
plus in a 7 week regular season, anything goes, right? You have one bad week, you could be done. You have one good week, you might be able to coast. It's chaos. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be
It's
fun.
gonna be fun. Yeah, I'm interested.
Unrelated to this, but we talked about it on the last email or last episode in the email section. I was doing a little bit of calendar digging, and I think I have possibly the next date and movie for our family watch party.
Ooh, pitch it. You
So
didn't tell me yet. Go ahead.
we've done Too Fast,
Yes.
we've done Tokyo Drift, and we
Yes.
did not for the podcast, but just for your birthday, we did Gone 60, right?
Yep.
So I'm thinking we continue with the main franchise and we do Fast and Furious number 4, and it would be on Saturday, August 8th.
Tentatively, that sounds great to me.
Because we're going to record with Nico and Kevo the following Wednesday, and so we're going to have to watch it that week anyway. So instead of doing it on a Sunday where like if people want to join from Australia and then suddenly it's the middle of the workday, if
Yeah.
we can, we'll do it on Saturday, August 8th, so I can send out a save the date reminder. But I think that could be good. I think if timeline works up, it is from the time this episode comes out. It's 2.5 weeks from now. All right, Joe. We have a Patreon of the show. Too Fast, TooForever.com. So we are now. Oh, I did not post today. I got to post laps 8 to 10 on Patreon. So now if you are a Patreon member, you know by now what laps 8, 9, and 10 are, and those are the $10 a month or above tiers. You get to pick one movie for each lap. So if you want to be in on that action, Too Fast, TooForever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Vin Diesel, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenin, Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Letty Ortiz, Christian Larson, and Jerry Robinson for supporting
Thank
us
you
at the $5
guys.
level or above. Thank you all so very
Thank you
much.
much. Very much. Thank you.
So, we have, if you want to join for this lap, you can still get a pick in here. If you heard last episode, you're like, oh, I can't believe they're not covering Avatar, or what was
Yeah.
it, Machete Kills, or whatever, right? Like, you
True.
can get in here, do it, too fast, tooforever.com. But shout out to all of you who support us over there.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Joe,
What?
the mailbag family at cageclub.me. I don't know what happened. We have not skipped a day. We have not, it's not
It's not
like
even like a
we did
long
the YAML.
pause. Yeah.
We have so many emails. Let's just get into it.
Okay, go for it.
First up, from someone who wrote in a while ago but has not written in a while, Dylan Yap. Subject line: The Corona and the Virus presents COVID and 19.
I like it.
Says, hey
What's up,
guys, I
Dylan?
finally caught up to the episode that my first email was read, and man, did it take me a while to catch up, even though I've still got a bit of ways to go to be completely up to date.
Still doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I would never be able to catch up with this.
Friend of the show, Melissa, is catching up, and she is doing so slowly. We also have Wells Lamont catching up. He will, spoiler, we'll write in again this. But yeah, I mean, if you found this during COVID and then like we doubled up on the release, like I think it's hard enough to keep up, hard enough to catch up if you were in it, but like if you have like 100 basically 2 hour episodes and now we're putting
Yeah.
out 4 hours a week, like good luck, Godspeed.
Yeah, amen. Hope we're helping at least a little bit.
With everything that happened in the world the past couple of months, I wasn't able to drive as much, and hence I wasn't able to listen as much. I
You hear
tried
that a
listening
lot.
without driving, but it didn't feel right.
The car is an essential part of it, I guess.
Guess so. I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only Aussie listening down under. Gotta love the representation. Yeah, we got a bunch of Aussie listeners down there.
A ton, yeah, surprisingly. Like Haley,
Yeah.
Jake, everybody. Like, there's a whole bunch. Yeah.
Anyway, I just got my misso, that's Australian for girlfriend, to start watching the F&F movies for the first time, and she's loving it.
Ooh.
We're doing it in chronological order like you guys did in lap 5, and I think I prefer it this way. I'll be listening out for this email until I catch up again. Your mate, Dill.
Well, thank you, Dylan, for writing in. And I'm glad that you're showing her them in this order. We're going to do the same with Nico and Kevo. I really like this order a lot, actually. So,
I also just like the word misso. I think that's great.
miso is cute. Yeah, I like it a lot.
All right, then we got a couple emails in a row from Nick Burris. First off, sorry to hear about your dad again.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I was sorry to hear about this, too.
All I could think of when you were saying the asshole your dad pinned on the ground was I think I was in 10th grade and my dad and I went to a junkyard to get a part so my dad could finish a job. He's a mechanic, so we got a jack from the old trucks out there and he was under it. The jack slipped, pinning him under the car.
Oh my God.
So I had to run to get help. Got a couple of guys, they pick up the car enough for me to pull my dad out with, he was thinking 265 and I was like 130. And adrenaline was going because it was easy to pull. He regained consciousness and he went to the hospital. He was fine. Lucky. The doctor said he was lucky.
Very
Usually they
lucky.
come in and they're dead or they have broken ribs. My dad told me it was about an inch closer out, but he got stuck on the body. Just glad that he had the idea. He said something told him to see if I wanted to go with him.
Wow. Remember when we were talking about this when we were watching Dirty Mary Crazy Larry too, like how frightening that is. Like that's just like a terrifying feeling for me. That's crazy to see that. But I'm glad that he's okay. That's an awesome end to that story, man. Thanks.
It says, out of the dark hole now, Nico and Kevo remind me of Rico and Tego in their banter. It's funny. This should be a good lap.
I think so too, man. I'm excited for it. They're really good dudes, and like they're funny in the chat too. I know you guys don't see that part of it, but they're always cracking jokes and making me laugh. So
About Freebie and the Bean, they do show Trunks in Too Fast, and Roman even pops the trunk at the end. Do they do it from the
true.
inside, or do they not do it from the inside? We got to keep an eye out for that, because it's like the Tarantino's like the trunk looking out. I got to remember. I don't remember if it's what the perspective is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And we definitely see the car that has like TVs in the trunk at some point in one of the movies too. I remember that. Remember we were talking about it, like is there TVs in this trunk, and like they show the speakers and stuff. So yeah.
Yes. But it's like it's the different perspective. It's like the Tarantino trunk shot that maybe he took from Freebie. I don't know. Says, thinking about being racist didn't catch until I listened to the episode, but even the title is racist, calling the Mexican the bean.
Oh, that's true. Joey knows this, and he does it too. How? We don't know. I call my cats beans, so for me, it's like a term of endearment, and it has no other meaning than just like, it's just like a cute name for a cat. Yeah, I didn't even put two and two together that he's calling him beans for a reason.
Gotta love the 70s, man.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, like you use Bean as a term of affection. Like I don't know how my cat's name went from being Sam. Like I call her Bean more than Sam, but it's not like a nickname. Like a look at that cute. Like 'cause you call other cats and dogs Bean. Like I don't do that. Like,
Yes.
my cat is just go goes by is the wrong word, but goes by being. So yeah, I was just thinking that. I'm surprised it didn't come up, but yeah, the whole racist element, not cool, not
Not
cool.
not cool, but like I just didn't even think about it because I'm always like, look at this cute bean over here, and yeah,
Now talking about lifespan, I catch myself singing to the song. I mean, that song is great.
dude, we listen to it a lot, like outside of like doing YAML stuff. Like that song by Volts is so fucking good. It really is. Go check it out. Like if you haven't already, it's Volts Lifespan. There's a music video on YouTube. The whole song is great.
Nick says Johnny made me laugh. He says I'm glad there's a timetable now, and I think it's funny how Johnny says I love you here until he dies. Spoiler alert, not much longer. And also the timeline is correct, and Mia did not have sex with Brian yet. Ellie had done the deed before Brian was in the crew. I have a couple links I'm going to send. One is blah blah blah, and it goes on from there. Till next time, tail lights. OG Four Horsemen. Nick out.
Thank you for writing in, Nick. That was fun.
So he sends in this link first, and this is a thing on YouTube called Showing Up the Tuners. And this is a bunch of cars in a parking lot.
Cool, cool.
It says, wait for it, shut down, winner, winner, steak dinner. So I don't know if you're looking at this. I haven't watched this yet. It's like an old-timey car.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna smoke this tuner. I bet. Let me see.
That's not even a race. They're just revving up, basically.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen this. I mean, I've seen very similar videos before. I feel like I've seen this specific video before. Okay, so it was just like a car show, and he won with his rat rod as opposed to the tuners. That's cool.
And then he says, meant to tell you about this author, Jason R. Davis, just Jason Davis. He's a good author and has a supernatural feel to it, plus he has a lot of short stories. He used to be a truck driver, too, so some of the themes of short stories are spooky road tales. It says, check out
Oh, I like
Hatched.
that.
I listened to all his books while driving. It sucks you in.
That's cool.
If you're looking
Jason
for one,
Davis.
Hatched. Hatched looks like the best one.
Jason Davis added. Cool.
I also want to give a shout out to Hector sent in a few car pictures, which we will of course save. I mean, we have months and months and months of car pictures ahead of us, but
That's
just
fine.
keep sending them in.
Yeah, no worries, man. We'll eventually get to them. It's not like we're not gonna do them. It's just.
Yep, just no, literally not anytime soon because
Yeah.
it's just we don't do a ton of them. But okay.
But we got nothing but time.
Next email from Wells Lamont. Still trucking, fellas. Still going strong.
What up, Wells? How are you doing, buddy?
Says MacGruber is the second funniest in the world. First is Billy Madison. You were saying that you hadn't seen MacGruber, right? When I was
No.
talking about MacGruber a whole bunch of episodes ago.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but Billy Madison is top tier.
I mean, you and Wells seem to have similar tastes and stuff. I'd say check out MacGruber.
Yeah, that's fair.
3 summers ago, me and a couple buddies played pool almost every night. We put MacGruber on repeat for the 5 or 6 hours while we drank, smoked, ate, and played pool. It was awesome. I probably watched it 300 times in 2017. I'm assuming that's the Guinness World Record. I can recite that movie backwards. Not a day goes by that I don't reference MacGruber.
I'm sure it's a Guinness World Record, and if you need somebody to validate that, like, I wish that I was a Guinness World Record validator for you so that we could put you in the book. Do you remember the books? Man,
Oh yeah, I had a few of the books. Yeah, I mean, I think there still are books. I think they still make books.
I like the
think.
videos of it. Do you follow them on like social media?
No.
They obviously still do this, and they'll be like, new guy from New Zealand, like stomped the most cans in a row or something, and like they'll like.
Oh, I did see one of those.
Yeah,
I,
'cause
I
they
don't
come
know
up
if that
in
was.
your
I don't know if that was a
newsfeed.
Guinness one, but yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like most watermelons broken with your face, and it's like.
Yeah.
So I like it in my newsfeed because like I'm so sick of every other possible postings.
Yeah.
Guinness World Records is like, yeah, this is wholesome enough for me to want to watch.
Well, it says not only are most of the old Looney Tunes racist, but most of the old Looney Tunes are racist as fuck. Blackface, Nazi propaganda,
Yep.
Speedy Gonzales, Foghorn Leghorn, so many random episodes as well.
Yep.
Used to be able to rifle off way more of them, but it's been a while. Every Looney Tunes cartoon I watched when I was 5 to 10 was made in the 20s to the 80s. They were all extremely inappropriate. They're
Yep.
very sought after now. You can purchase a bunch of them on eBay. I found a few at Rasputin. Deals all day at
Oh,
Rasputin.
deals all day.
And they're pretty wild.
They still play it. I have one channel on Sling that plays Looney Tunes at night.
Well, no, they're not entirely racist, but they have gotten rid, like they've basically
yeah,
pulled
they've
a
wiped
bunch of them.
they've
Yeah.
wiped a whole bunch of them. Yep.
Also, speaking of that, I want to point out, I want to shout out Peacock, which I don't think we've talked about Peacock on here yet, but it's the Comcast Universal
Yeah.
whatever streaming service, which Fast and Furious already left It was on there for a day.
Yeah, Jason sent us the thing and we were laughing about it.
They have on there basically my idea, which is the channels, right? It's all the different
Yeah, that is cool.
yeah, so you can like just put on like the SNL channel, just like a random SNL episode that like you and I could be watching the same SNL episode at the same time.
We've been
And don't
pitching
have to like sync
this.
it up. You just put it on or whatever, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this idea. I wish that more things did. We were talking about this because we wanted it for Netflix, that you could just be
Yep.
like, okay, put on The Office, and it would just like be everybody would be playing the same version of The Office, like the same episode at the same time in the middle of an episode or whatever. It's a great idea. I love it.
I'm knocking out more episodes now, so eventually I'll be caught up. On one hand, I'm loving having an abundance of episodes to listen to, but on the other hand, it's overwhelming knowing you guys create so much glorious content, and
Oh,
it'll still be a while before I'm waiting for episodes to drop. I like waiting for episodes. No more saying episodes, I've said it too much. Anyway, great episode. Said it again. As usual, I'll holler at you players on the flip. Peace out.
peace out, Wells. And you'll get the reminder for the family watch party soon. So
Never Not Funny is that I talk about them a lot. One of my favorite podcasts, maybe my favorite podcast. They put out normally in a normal thing, they put out usually 2 hour episodes a week, and then now in COVID they've been doing an extra, usually about an hour to 75 minutes on Saturdays. They just do like a bonus thing, right?
okay,
But like I have because of that, just the same thing like with our podcast. It's very easy to fall behind because if you don't keep up with it, you're like, oh shit, I'm 10 hours behind and I'm just like 9 days back. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you're whoa, like how did I fuck this one up this bad?
yep,
I've fallen way behind on those, and like there's something really kind of cool about having like, oh, here's 20 new episodes that I haven't heard, but then you catch up. You're like, well, now what? Like now I have to wait, and like I'm glad that Wells likes the waiting, but it feels like okay, I have one to watch every day for 3 weeks, and then it's like, well, wait, and I have to wait 4 days? Like what?
yeah. I hate waiting. That's why I can't do TV shows that like come on in normal. Well, I mean, besides like shitty reality TV, because that's like nonsense. It doesn't really matter. Like a normal TV, like a drama. If it's
Mm-hmm.
coming on like once a week, I can't do it anymore. My brain's just broken from it.
Next email from West Hampton, subject line: The Getaway. What up, fam?
What up, Wes? How are you doing, bud?
I didn't watch The Getaway, but I do love Steve McQueen in the few things I've seen him in. I wish I could watch
Same.
all these movies before listening, but it's also kind of fun to hear you rambling through descriptions of scenes, then something out of left field happens. You're talking about the veterinarian and someone taking someone's wife hostage, then the guy kills himself, but you were nonchalant about it, and I was like, whoa, that suicide kind of came out of nowhere. It's a unique experience. I'll say that. Also, like, listening to us talk about these movies isn't really hearing people talk about the movies. Like, it kind of is sometimes, but, like, it's also just like,
It's more nonsense than anything. Yeah.
if someone just found, like, oh my god, Freebie and the Bean is my favorite movie of all time, I can't wait to hear this random podcast talk about it. Like, fuck, like, this has, what are they even talking about?
Yeah. Well, you'd be like an hour in before you'd even get to it, so you'd be like, "What the
Yeah,
fuck
there's an
is
hour of
happening?"
nonsense, and then there's like 40 minutes of discussion, and they keep just framing it around the Fast and the Furious. So I'm not even talking about. Even if you've seen the movie, it's not a great discussion. I mean, it's the discussion we're gonna have. So
Yeah. You guys are listening, so
But I will say that suicide just did kind of come out of nowhere. Like it wasn't like a thing that was really like just like he got cucked and then
yeah, he
killed
cucked him
himself.
in front of her, like in front of him, while they like he was tied up, and then like the next scene, he's just like hung himself, and everybody's
Yep.
like, "Okay, cool," and they just like
Yeah.
keep going along.
Wes says, I confess I still haven't seen Rad, but it's on my list for years. We have some friends who do a podcast about cult films, and Rad was an early episode. Speaking of, Joey, I'm sure you saw the Mondo poster release. Did you get it? I did indeed. And that was one that I was
You
like,
got
I
it?
said to my sister, yeah, I was like, I need you to also try this because I really want to get this poster. And we wound up each getting a poster.
Oh, cool.
So she's going to sell hers on eBay and not like, because there's so many people on Mondo who like there's like robots and stuff who like outdo the people and like people get furious and so they like instantly put it up on eBay for like 3 times the value. She's gonna just sell it for basically like what she paid, which is good, plus eBay fees or whatever.
Yep.
But she's like, should I sell it now or should I sell it when I get it? I was like, look, people are gonna get mad at you if you put it up there now. Like you're gonna make money, but you're gonna make money either way. Like if you sell it, somebody's gonna buy it, right? So
Yes.
I should just wait.
Also,
So, yeah,
somebody's probably
we
gonna
each got
buy
one.
it and then resell it for higher immediately.
Yes,
Anyways,
exactly.
so
I think the next week or maybe later that week. Like I hadn't bought anything from Mondo in forever. Like I don't think this calendar year I'd bought anything from Mondo.
Oh.
And then the next week they put out a really cool Palm Springs poster. I talked about that movie last
yes,
episode.
yeah, Wes
and
talked
I
about
bought
that too.
poster too.
Wes liked Palm Springs as well. He was telling me to watch it.
Yeah, Wes then messaged me a bunch of his like Palm Springs theories to not spoil it for you, and I was like,
Oh, cool.
and, like he's also like, I know this is not how like normal people's brains works. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think about any of this stuff. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is such a comedy classic. We have a lot of movie-related holiday traditions, and as you know, Every Thanksgiving we do a movie trilogy, but every Thanksgiving Eve, while we're prepping, we watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and also Dutch, the two best Thanksgiving movies ever made. I don't know Dutch. Do you
I
know
don't.
Dutch?
Nope, never heard of it.
Dutch is from 1991, directed by Peter Feynman, starring Ed O'Neill, Ethan Embry, and Jo Beth Williams. To get to know his girlfriend's son, a man volunteers to pick him up from prep school, only to learn that her son's not the nicest kid.
And it's a
Okay.
Thanksgiving movie.
I guess. Following an odd couple pairing heading home for that Thanksgiving. Oh, you're going home for Thanksgiving holiday. Yeah. Okay. They're both 80s road trip comedies, and they both fuel my weird interest in old roadside bungalow style motels. You know, the ones in 80s movies with separate buildings instead of a
Yes.
long stretch of rooms.
Yes.
Anyway, they're
I
great
like
movies,
these too.
highly recommended.
Like Bates Motel type situation.
I've had many quote best Batman discussions. It's a tough choice. It depends on what you like in a Batman. We have a friend who hates the Nolan Batman movies because he says Batman doesn't use his detective skills like in the comics.
Oh.
So that's debatable, but whatever.
Yeah.
My favorites are probably Bale, Keaton, and West.
Those are three good Batmans. Those are good Batmans for sure.
Bale because Nolan's Batman movies are so good. The other two for nostalgia. I used to watch the Adam West show all the time. When I played Arkham City, I got the Adam West skin and mostly used that. It was hilarious, but it made the game even more fun.
That is cool.
On the subject of Robert Pattinson, I have real high hopes. I think he can only be good. I have reservations about the script, but my fingers are crossed.
Same, dude. And we like Robert Pattinson. We said that, yeah.
Our very passionate friend JB is a lifelong Batman fan. He was so excited by the announcement. He loves Robert Pattinson, so it's hard not to be
Good.
caught up in that mood.
Yeah. Same.
He says, as you know, Spider-Man's my favorite, and I have a lot of feelings on it, good and bad. I'll keep it brief and say I have a lot of nostalgic love for Tobey Maguire and even Spider-Man 3. I also enjoy Tom Holland, the MCU movies, but it's not my favorite version of Peter Parker. Motivations aren't quite there for me. Lastly, Into the Spider-Verse. It's hands down the best Spider-Man movie ever made.
Agreed.
We also have Nicolas Cage in there, of
Yep.
course. So
Into the Spider-Verse is it's just beautiful too. If anybody's
Yep.
listening that hasn't seen it yet, like adult, child, anything, just go fucking watch. It's a great movie.
the guys who made that, Lord and Miller, and I think the animation studio has basically said that what they're doing for the sequel is going to make the first one look like, I don't remember the word, but like they basically made it seem like the first one's going to be nothing compared to the second one, just visually. It's like I don't know how you do. I don't
How
know
you step it
where
up
you
with
go.
like the color melts and like all the weird shit, the cell shading and stuff.
don't know.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited for it. I'm glad they're making another one. I don't think I knew that they were making. I mean, like I assumed that they'd make another
Yeah.
one, but I didn't know that they were.
Mike and I saw that like a week before it came out. Like the movie theater by his house was having like just like a regular, like anybody could buy tickets, but like had an advanced screening, and they gave everybody in the theater surveys to fill out. And then
Okay.
like fill out one side of it like before you see the movie, then one side of it after you see the movie. It's like, well, what do you want more from the movie, whatever. And we're both like, just give us a Nicolas Cage Spider-Man movie, please and thank you. Like just everything was like Nicolas Cage themed. Like whoever read those surveys was probably like, this isn't helpful. Like this, what? Stop it. Like who?
Yeah, this
No.
is so dumb. Why would we ever do that?
I love the PS4 game, and I'm pumped for the Miles Morales one for PS5. Yeah, I have not played the PS4 game. I have it. I just,
haven't, yeah.
I want to play video games more than I actually do, but I hope to play it soon.
Someday.
Won't drag this back up. We had a long conversation about Tokyo Drift, and I'm glad I convinced both of you that you were just confused, and I'm actually right, and the scene makes perfect sense. Glad I could put that to rest to you. No need to ever bring it up again, at least not until somebody
get
else
to
mentions
Tokyo
it,
Drift.
or we watch Tokyo Drift, yeah.
Yeah, we had a long discussion with Wes, and I can finally firmly say that the only conclusion that we can all agree on is that Sean and his family are a mess. Most likely all of them fucked up somehow.
Oh yeah, no, the whole family is chaos.
Like, at the core of it, like, we could all agree with that. Like, who is specifically responsible for this is very debatable because of shitty writing in the script, maybe shitty line delivery, and possible ad-libs. At the core of it, they're all just a mess. So, yeah.
Yeah, Wes like brought it up in our chat and then like went to do something and came back an hour later. He's like, I got 100 messages here, and I was like, please don't say the podcast is over. Please don't. Like he thought he like ruined everything. There was a comedian, Pablo Francisco. Do you remember Pablo Francisco?
Yeah, he did a lot of impressions.
It reminded me like kind of like this is not what Wes did, but it reminds me of like he did a thing about Jerry Springer. Where he's just like, here's a knife, do something with the knife. He just like puts a knife down and it's like
Yes,
walks away.
yes, I remember
And
this.
so Wes is basically like, so Tokyo Drift, huh? Do something with that, and then just like steps away.
100 messages of Joey and I go like posting the script.
But like
the script.
I got you to a point where you agreed with me, and then like you backpedaled from agreeing. But like for a while, you were like, "Oh yeah, no, like we're both like I see where you're coming from," and then all of a sudden like it pivoted, and you're like, "Now we're whatever." But I like that's one where I just don't care. I just everybody's
No,
wrong. Everybody's wrong.
Wes's point was that his dad was compensating for thinking his mom was a moron, which would
Right.
put him at fault, which could possibly be true. But then you like read the script and you're like, well, that doesn't explain this part of this line, so why would he have said that? And you're assuming that Sean is telling the truth about what day it is and he's not confused. And there's just like a whole bunch of chaos that happens that we'll bring up when we get to Tokyo Drift with
Yeah,
Nico
that's
and
the most
Kevo.
important thing, which I think we only recently added to the argument, is that like the core of this, who we're seeing this from, is Sean, who is very clearly a fuck up. Like we said, the whole family
Yes.
is like Sean, especially, right? Like,
Yep.
boy, oh boy, yeah. If he's the arbiter of truth, like there's an unreliable narrator there. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, because the dad's like, you were supposed to be here on the 7th. And Sean's like, it is the 7th. One of them is not telling the truth, and you don't know which one it is, right? But, like, the dad
Yep.
doesn't confirm that it's not the 7th. Just Sean thinks it's the 7th. So, yes, there you go. That's the whole argument over again. So,
And then Wes says, that's it for today. Just a lot of superhero talk, but that's always fun. And F&F talk isn't that far off from superhero talk anyway. Until
true.
next time, stay furious.
Thanks, Wes. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for getting us all fired up about Tokyo Drift and Sean's dad again.
Hector sends in an email, subject line, I got something to say.
What up, Hector?
Hey, you old bitch.
Hello, you old bitch.
That's the whole email.
That was it? That was this the
Yep.
email? I told you it's fun to say, man. Hello, you old bitch.
All right, our next email is from long time no emails, a subject line from Emma Franklin.
What up, Emma? How are you?
She says, hey guys, good news, I'm not dead. I just live in Arizona and things keep happening.
I see in the news. Things do keep happening in Arizona. That's true.
I thought I'd give you some life updates and some commentary. First up is the life stuff. I still work in a COVID lab, so things are busy. I work
Yep.
weird hours, and well, you can imagine how things are going if you turn on the news.
Yep. Stay safe, please.
Yep.
But you're in a lab. I'm sure that you're using PPE and stuff. I always tell people this. They're like, man, like you're around like COVID samples. And I'm like, yeah, but like in the safest possible. Like we're like super squatted up, right? Like we have
You're not
all
like
the gear.
inhaling fumes.
Yeah, I'm not like licking it with my like I'm not opening stuff with my mouth. Like, you're wearing gloves and sleeves and there's a hood, everything. So, yeah.
She says, I got two new kittens, Burton and Eve. She puts a picture, I'm putting the picture in here.
Ooh.
They're 14 weeks old and collectively weigh 5 pounds.
Oh my god, they're two cute beans. Look how sleepy this guy is. He's so sleepy.
Yeah.
I like it. They're cute. They're
The other one
two
looks like he
black
might
cats.
be like looking off, but he's probably just asleep. It's probably like one of those heads up, just,
Yeah.
sleeping.
Like just nodding. They're small kittens too. This still has like the kitten like eye squintiness going on here.
I forgot about a fourth car guy in my life. My brother-in-law is a car hobbyist. I don't actually know what that means. Neither do I, but he's just into. Oh God, what's the comedian? He's like a boat enthusiast. Is that Mitch Hedberg? It is Mitch Hedberg. If you boat a lot, you're known as a boating enthusiast. I like to boat, but I don't ever want to be referred to as a boating enthusiast. I hope they call me a guy who likes to boat. Now, for the commentary about the Whataburger versus In-N-Out, I'm on neither side. I'm allergic to sesame. Ooh. So I avoid burger places altogether because I'm never sure if I'm going to have an allergic reaction or not. I also can't eat bread at certain sandwich places. Oof.
Oh, that sucks, man. And I fucking love, dude. We've been using a ton of sesame oil and like all kinds of like Asian dishes and sauces that we make, and I love sesame oil too. I feel bad for you. I'm sorry.
I was almost a teacher, so I know how to format a question for tests and quizzes, and what I was told was to give one obvious wrong answer and the rest fairly close to the right one. Okay,
That's
good.
fair.
That's good. That's good guidance.
Yeah.
Hey, we asked people to see if like we have not gotten feedback on that, like whether these questions, like your idea of like particular things are bullshit, like I think, or if they're fair. I don't know. I don't know.
I try to make all the answers very similar. Well, but you always throw in one wrong answer. So like I guess that we've learned that, we've adapted that. Yeah, you always put like one that's like a way off the scale answer, and then we make like three that are like hard to choose from.
I think I already emailed you about where my dad and I stand on the Sean's dad versus mom. Oh, here we go. I said it wasn't going to happen until somebody else brings it up, and here we go. His dad is wrong. He is the adult who needed to confirm with both the mom and Sean about Sean's arrival. Also, the sex worker thing is what you do if you have a free night and you're single and you're in the military, at least according to my dad, who's also a military man. That is a very comfortable relationship you have with your father. I don't think I would ever...
Well, but no, but you could, even if you're a dad, you could be like, I know a lot of guys that did this, which means like I
did
probably did this, but I'm not going to say that I did this.
Asking for a friend, but...
Yeah, exactly. Someone who is me. Swim wants to know.
I am glad, though, that Emma's on my side. I finally have someone firmly in my corner, so shout out Emma.
Yeah, but you heard the previous conversation. I'm not gonna argue with Joey about it again right now. We
Shout
just
out Emma.
argued about it.
Shout out Emma.
Shout out.
Now, for
Emma.
random stuff, my friends and I did a shipping analysis with the possible relationships in the Fastiverse. What we found is the possible ships are more gender balanced, which means the possible ships were relatively equal male-male, female-female, and male-female relationships.
Okay.
She does not give details. I would like to know. I mean, I
Fuck.
think the
Yeah, send
biggest,
that.
the most obvious one is Dom Bryan,
Dom Bryan, yeah.
Rico Tego, the new theory.
Probably Letty Mia.
I guess I don't know that they really show affection toward each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Like they just kind of they coexist. I don't
And Rico
see.
Tego, if they're not brothers, right?
Right.
Like, we always call them the brothers, but we don't know that they're brothers. They could be cousins. If they're not cousins, then they're definitely, like, a married couple. So,
I can see some Vince Bryan.
some Vince Bryan.
The opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference, right? And like if they hate each other, if
There's a
Vince hates
passion.
Bryan,
There is a passion.
there's a strong emotion there, right? So
Yeah,
like
like,
they're fighting, and then all of a sudden like they just step closer to each other, and then
make out.
you know.
And this is cool. In this episode, spoiler, we talk about a lot of interesting relationship stuff in the back half with Nico and Kevo. So,
Well, that's it from me. I hope everyone's staying safe, Emma. Well, thank you, Emma.
thanks for writing in, Emma. Glad to hear that you're safe and okay. And good luck with the kittens, man. They're super cute.
Very much so. Very, very much so. Another email from Wells, subject line 100.
What up, Wells?
Congrats on 100 episodes. I hope I get to say congrats on 1,000 one day.
I hope so
This
too,
is where
man.
I'm at my comeback. That's it for now. Actually, I tried Ubi Gelato, UBE Gelato,
Yeah.
and wow, it's dumbass delicious. Google that if you don't know. It's nothing like you think. The Joes are my bros. Peace. So you know Ubi Gelato?
I know what ubi fruit is.
Well, it's like this is like apparently gelato. It seems like made out of sweet potato.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ubi is ubi and taro the same thing?
Ubi is known as a purple yam as a tuberous root vegetable. It's a color between deep purple and even white. Taro is also a root vegetable known as gabi in the Philippines. It's commonly white but can be slightly gray or lavender. So they're both root vegetables, different colors.
Yeah, so they're essentially like sweet potatoes, right? And
They're both, yeah,
I
both sweet
love,
potatoes.
I fucking love taro flavored frozen yogurt. It's like my favorite flavor. So yes, I'm familiar with these things. I've had ubi stuff. I thought that ubi and taro were the same thing. They're both just sweet root vegetables. They're sweet potato. They're like a type of sweet potato, kind of. That's awesome. I didn't know. I would love to try the gelato. I bet it's really good. I'm with you. And also somehow these, because of like the rootiness, the taro flavor is like almost. Don't kill me for this. Almost has like a weird chocolatey kind of flavor to it. I don't know what kind of chocolatey properties it has in my brain, but it like almost tastes like a little bit like a weird chocolate. So
And our last email is from Jerry Robinson, subject line Kanye moment.
he had a Kanye moment or a moment of Kanye?
I don't know. We'll find out. Hey guys, quick thing about Kanye's presidential run. I saw that he got at least 2% of votes in a state, which surprised me.
What state was it? Wyoming, where he lives? What even state did he get 2% in?
No, in a national presidential poll, he got 2%. And what happened surprisingly is that it took from Trump, not from Biden, which I guess it's just it's people voting for like who has the bigger ego, maybe?
Clout chasers. It's like
I
if you
guess.
could vote from Snapchat, you'd have a really good chance. TikTok, if you could vote
Yeah.
on TikTok. That's interesting because we always like we were saying that we assumed that it would be like stealing Biden's vote, but I guess that
Right.
it kind of makes sense that if you're like already voting for one celebrity, then you'd vote for another celebrity you like more. So that makes sense.
I guess. This country's fucked up.
It is. It's a fucking hellscape right now.
Jerry says, I love Rasputin. When I was younger, I'd go there with my grandfather, and then it was next to a famous pizza shop known as Blondie's that shut down. I love music stores like Rasputin, Amoeba, and Tower.
Amoeba just shut down, I think. Amoeba just closed. I think like maybe right before COVID.
I don't know. I don't think that they closed everywhere. I think they closed like a flagship store though.
Like the main one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tower shut down a while ago. If you have not, Jerry, if you have not watched The Rise and Fall of Tower, or This Too Shall Pass, or All Things Must Pass, just search The Rise and Fall of Tower Records. Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, did a documentary about the rise and fall of Tower
Oh,
Records.
that's
'Cause
kinda
he,
cool.
he basically grew up in Tower. There's a podcast called This Particular Album is Very, Very Important to Me, where they have the two hosts have a different, usually like an actor or comedian or whoever, go on and talk about a particular album that meant a lot to them growing up. And so he went on
Oh,
to talk
that's
about
cool.
the Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and like in there he went really in depth with like his growing up with music and like him living in Sacramento and whatever. But he did this whole documentary about the rise and fall of Tower because he loved Tower Records. So I don't remember much about the documentary. I remember enjoying it. I didn't have this like I didn't grow up near a tower, so I don't have any kind of
Yeah, emotional
like our
attachment to it, yeah.
we had like coconuts and we had something else, but like I didn't really even go to those a lot. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't.
What did I have? I forget it. There was definitely I had a record store in Pittsburgh that I used to go to a lot, but that's when I was like 18 to 20 when I was buying like new albums and stuff, and that's gone. And I had a music store like when you would buy CDs that I would go to, but I forget the name of it. And I think it was just like a generic like whatever bought and became FYE, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Like
FYE sucks. Like
it
that's
does. It's
it was a very
garbage. Yeah.
corporate, overpriced bullshit experience.
Yep.
We had coconuts,
Exactly.
and there was one other one that I can't remember. It was sad to me, like because I never even had like close affinity toward that, but it's just like still cool to have like a media shop, and then like for it to become like a clothing outlet, it's just like that's.
So stupid. Yeah, another Ann Taylor. That's what we need. Fucker.
Jerry says, I have a bunch of old vinyls leading back to when my parents were young. My favorite and the vinyl I cherish the most, besides all 80 of them my family owns, is the Thriller vinyl by Michael
Oh,
Jackson.
that's a fucking classic album. Yeah, and the picture, the everything. Damn.
Yeah.
Super cool. Actually, I should probably get a copy of Thriller. That sounds like a good one. I was just thinking the other day, like, I was like, I need a copy of the White Album by the Beatles, and Thriller's up there of, like, albums that I should just go. I'm sure that there's, like, a bajillion copies of them, right? This was an album that was, like, the most selling
Oh
album
yeah, it
ever.
was the best selling album of all time, I think.
Yeah, so, like, I'm sure that I could find, a nice used copy for $1 or whatever, and I need to add it just to have.
I wonder if you guys will do a common heist lap featuring an all-star cast like the Ocean series and Takers. We're talking about Takers again. We talked about doing a heist lap. We're definitely going to do a heist lap at some point.
Yes, it's in the works for sure. It's
I've got
like
a bunch
written
of
down.
movies lined up already.
Yep.
I will say our Friday movie Widows is a great heist movie. So if you have not
It
seen that
is.
yet,
Yep.
check out. And again, all-star cast. Regular kind of
Super.
normal heist, all-star cast.
So many people in this movie. Yeah.
Talking about Takers, I love that movie for so many reasons. Paul Walker with his old school car fast connection, and since I'm a big Star Wars fan, seeing Hayden Christensen, aka Anakin Skywalker. For now, that's all I got. Be fast and not last.
Be fast, Jerry. Thank you, buddy, for writing in.
And thank you everybody who wrote in because that was a great. I mean, again, we had we recorded 4 days ago and we had like 9 emails or something, right, from like 6 different people.
This was like a really fucking solid gambit of mailbag. Like I'm impressed with you guys. Like this was no, I really am. Like I mean like
Yeah,
normally we get like they're all good, but like this was like a well-versed mailbag. Yeah.
yeah, cool. All right, Joe, on the streets, Fast and Furious news. There is the one thing that's been going around that Jason sent us, that Melissa sent me, and I was like, oh, we're already on top of it, which is something that we kind of knew about, but I don't think we knew the full extent of it, because we were talking about
Go ahead.
in Tokyo Drift how difficult it is to film in like Shibuya Crossing and how they don't really like
Yes.
it's just overwhelming, whatever. And so there was this news that came out, quote unquote news, on Screen Rant that said that the studio knew it was going to be tricky and they hired a guy to pretend he was Justin Lin. And so when the cops got wind that they were shooting a movie and they're like, where's your director? Where's Justin Lin? They had some guy who like spent a night in prison, jail, not prison, but a night in jail, arrested for doing this wrong. So they hired a fall guy to keep Justin Lin free and help make the movie. It's such a crazy, like it's a small story, but it's a funny kind of crazy
It's a
story.
good story. This always reminds me that like Wiz Khalifa has this guy had this guy Burner forever, right? Who now like owns a weed shop in California. His whole job was he was just his weed handler. Wiz Khalifa would always be like smoking weed, but he would never be holding like the bag of weed and like the joints and like stuff like that if he's in a place that like isn't legal. So
Right.
like if the cops came, they'd be like what are you doing? He'd be like, oh sorry, I was just smoking this joint, which you're like not really gonna get arrested for. But then there's like a guy holding like 2 ounces of weed standing right next to him, and like this guy's whole job was just to be like get arrested if Wiz Khalifa gets busted with weed.
Jesus. All right. Yeah.
It's a very similar thing. It cracks me up.
Is there any other news that you've seen besides that? Anything that we have
No,
seen?
that
We
was
had
the
Vin
big one.
Diesel's birthday was over the
We
weekend, so
did,
happy
we
birthday,
did.
Vin.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else though, right? I mean, again, it feels like we're probably. I mean, maybe not, because like as movies keep getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out, and things aren't really happening. Maybe we're not going to have trailers. I feel like they're, studios are trying to figure out. I think they're more interested in like, can we keep the release dates we have, as opposed to like, can we promote movies that aren't out yet, right?
I
So we
really
might not have a
at
trailer
this
for a
point
while.
at this point you know that we don't watch trailers, but like I would kill for more trailers and less advertisements from companies showing you how much they think that they care about their employees because of COVID. Like I would take 20 spoiler trailers right now as opposed to Amazon telling me that everybody's wearing a mask in a warehouse right now because I'm so sick of them.
Joe, the time has come
Oh,
for the Too Fast, Too Forever, the Fast and the Furious Hall of Fame results. So we put it out there to the world.
I have
We
no
said here are
idea.
25 nominees, 25 nominations. We had 37 votes, which I think is a pretty good. A couple people voted twice, but it's like I think probably 35 or something different people. So basically, it feels like, and I was keeping track of the emails who came in. I think almost everybody who like consistently writes in here, plus some people I don't know, all voted for this thing. But like the core group, yes, the family, our family,
Yep.
voted, which is the important thing. Because like again, it could be widespread. We didn't really put it too much on Facebook, I don't think, but like
I don't
the
even think
people
we
listen
put
to
it
the
on
show,
Facebook, did we?
maybe once, maybe
Okay.
once.
It was mainly for the real crew, anyways. Like, I mean, like,
Yeah.
if it would have spread, it would have spread. But like, it was for people that are picking and listening. If you didn't listen, then like, what the fuck are the like? Some of the
Right.
awards would be like really weird. So yeah.
So the way that it worked is that everybody had up to 10 votes to cast.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that got more than 75% yeses, and a non-vote is a no. So it's not like just saying, like if you vote for just, say you only vote for Dom, that means the other 24 you say no. So it means that all those things have to have even more to catch up, right?
Yep.
So you had up to 10 votes out of the 25. Anything with 75% or more is going to get enshrined. Anything with less than 10% falls off the docket, and anything between 10 and 75 just stays on there.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the results, Joe, and how do you want me to do this? Do you want to know first if things fell off? Do you want to know first if things got in? Do you want me to go through all the results? Like I want, because I have the numbers, but I don't have a good way to do this. So how do you, as in this case, basically a listener, how do you want to hear the results? What are you most excited about? What are you most curious? What are you most worried about? What do you want to know first?
Give me the stuff that is in the Hall of Fame first. Then
Okay.
give me the stuff that fell off, and then we'll talk about like what stayed. Is that cool?
Yes.
That's how I want to hear it.
So you said, I believe, and I don't remember, I wrote this down somewhere at some point, I don't know. You said you thought we were going to have 5 things inducted, and I said 6, right? Because we're trying to figure out the
Oh yeah,
maximum whatever.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had 2. Two
2.
things got in, yeah?
Okay.
With 31 out of 37 votes, and 32 out of 37 votes, both in the mid 80 percentile,
Brian and Dom.
Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, and Brian O'Connor, Paul Walker are our
Yep, that makes
Too
sense.
Fast, Too Forever Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famers.
First ballot, yeah, dude, they just crush. I mean, like that's fair and makes sense and is perfectly acceptable to me.
And Brian actually got one extra vote. He got 32. Dom got 31. So there's at least one person out there who thinks Brian's a Hall of Famer, but Dom is not.
Yeah, true.
We had other things that were close. We had 2 that were in the 70s, but the low 70s, they did not qualify.
Ooh.
Do you want to know those, or should I keep those as a secret?
Keep those as a secret. I mean, tell me, but keep those as a secret.
We only had one thing fall off. Everything else, I was worried. I thought we might have a lot of things drop off because
You were super nervous about this. You were like really scared that we were going to have like a bunch of stuff that just came off. So the
Right.
vote was spread around a lot. Minus
yeah.
like,
So 37 people, which means that at least 4 had to vote on everything, and so everything got at least 4. There were two things that got exactly 4, so 2 things barely held on. But the only thing that fell off, and I will give a shout out to friend of the show, Melissa Lynham. She's the only one who voted for the joke slash meme of the impossibility of the Too Fast, Too Forever quiz. That is gone. That is has to wait. It's 5 years. So that means next year, when we do this again, when we do the second ballot Hall of Fame, or whenever we do, I don't know if it's going to be every lap, probably not every lap, but every year or whatever, we have to add 2 more characters, unless we want to mix it up. But I think when 22 of the 25 stay the same, I think the structure almost kind of has to stay the same.
Yeah.
But I think we can add 2 new characters, and we can add 1 new meme, which I feel like the meme that we don't have on there is the Tokyo Drift argument. I mean, we could talk about this later, but like,
I'm totally fair with Sean's dad. Is Sean's dad right or wrong
yeah,
about the
who's
date?
wrong? Sean's mom, Sean's dad, Sean, or all of them, right? And that's just, yeah.
Or the script writers. Can you put the script right? Like, who's wrong? Sean's mom, Sean's
Yeah.
dad, Sean, or the script writer?
Or us for just wasting so much time on this.
Yeah, true. Very true.
But yeah, so everything else stays. So 22 of the 25 stay, which means that so now that these like overwhelming favorites are gone, we're going to replace them with, who knows, 2 other characters. We'll figure that out. We'll see who gets inducted next year. I thought
See, this is going to be great, though, because once you got Dom and Brian out of it and they're in, so that, like, frees up 2 votes, and I think the next ballot will be a few more getting in. All those, like, 70 ones, like, they're still super popular, right? So, like, we're going to get, like, a bunch more of those because you don't have to vote for Dom and Brian now. Dom and Brian are the right 2 first ballot guys. Like, I have no qualms with this, so you guys did a good job.
And I will say that of the 5 little categories, the overwhelming, even factoring out Dom and Brian, the one that's overwhelmingly the most people voted on were the characters.
Yes.
Actors. Like, that was the clearest, easiest decision, I think, for a lot of people. Everything else was kind of, sort of, a lot hovering between, like, say, 20 and 50%. Like there's a lot,
Which is also fair.
so there's certain things that, work close, but, whether it's the stunts or the jokes and memes or the movies or the vehicles, they're all in that ballpark, like safe, like not going to be kicked off or whatever, not inducted either. The other wrinkle that we have to consider, we don't have to do this yet, we can do this in 5 or 10 or whatever, and I don't know what the actual base, like what MLB does. There's a thing like if you're on the ballot for 5 or 10 years and you don't get inducted, you get kicked off forever until like the special committee can like induct you later. So we have to think about that, not anytime
Okay.
soon,
Yeah.
but like say for instance like what's one on here, like Brian and Dom jumping, whatever, like a stunner scene, right, where they're jumping, right? If that's on the ballot for 10 years and it doesn't get in, but it doesn't get off, like is there, if it's on there for that long, is
It
it
has
ever
to
going to
go.
get in? You know
No.
what I mean? Yeah. So
That's
we can
fair.
figure that out eventually. We don't
Yep.
do that yet. Who knows? We're still early in. We got nothing but time. We're still early in the
Nothing but
game.
time.
But congratulations, Dominic Toretto and Brian O'Connor, to Vin Diesel and Paul Walker for being the first ballot Hall of Famers in the Too Fast, Too Forever, Fast and Furious Hall of Fame.
Amen.
And thank you all for voting.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was awesome. I appreciate it.
All right, Joe, the last thing we have to do before I take a break and bring in Nico and Kevo, we are not doing a Fast and Furious
Oh.
Minute.
Oh my god.
We are instead talking about the deleted scenes from the Fast and the Furious. So there are 11 of them. This is going to be longer than I think a normal minute breakdown because there's so much good stuff. If you
So
want to watch
much.
them, go to youtube.com/toofast2forever. Check out the playlists, and there is a playlist on there with 4 videos. There's the 6 that are on, or maybe there's the 9. There's 9. I think there's 9 deleted scenes. There's the 6 that are on the Blu-ray and the DVD, whatever. That's all in one video. And then there are 3 more that are just on YouTube but not on the disc. So I don't know why those aren't on the disc, but you found them all. We put together a playlist. They're on there, youtube.com/toofast2forever. I thought about putting the audio in here,
No,
but sometimes
it's
it
too
wouldn't
long.
necessarily work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Take a pause, go watch them.
yeah, before you listen to this, go watch them.
There's a lot of interesting shit, and you probably want to see it before we spoil it, ruin it for you. So,
Yep. So let's go through the 6 in like the chunk first, and then we'll do the 3 extra ones, if that's okay.
yeah, that's fine. Let me get my notes. I took like really sporadic notes. I know that you took notes, but mine were just like word vomit as fast as it was happening. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got to figure out, because we've each seen these, I think, at least probably 4 times by now.
At least four. At least four.
We got to figure out if we're going to do these for the minute or not. Probably.
I wanna
In
say
what
yes.
order? I don't know, but we'll figure that out as we get toward the end of this lap. But the first one on the disc, they all have different versions, different names sometimes on YouTube. The first one on the disc is called Brian and Mia Walk to Her Car, and this is immediately after he gets her a Snapple in the dining room and they're leaving the party.
Do you think it's that, or do you think it's pre them going to the cha cha cha?
Okay, so there is a little bit more that you do not know because you don't have the actual discs, you just have digital copies. So on
Yes,
the
yes,
discs, there are also director's commentary, at least on these, on the first 6, from Rob Cohen saying why they cut it. And this, they said, the previous scene in the dining room. So this is definitively after
Okay.
the party. Because we're like, how do we know that Mia's like a med student or studying biology or whatever, right? Because like there was some fact somewhere, and it's from the scene that she's studying med, that Brian says she's going to be a nurse, and she's like, oh, if I was a dude, you'd have thought I'd been a doctor, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm just
Yes.
a sexist grease monkey. The craziest thing in the scene, as she's talking to Brian
Oh my
about
god,
how like
say it. Yep.
the pressure of Dom wants her to like be a doctor, but he doesn't think about how she has to like get all straight A's and then go to med school and blah blah blah. She does an impression of Dom, which is amazing.
So good. She's like, Mia, come on already, get on it.
I was like, wow, that is so good.
Yeah, we don't see that too often in movies. It's actually like a thing that like I think movies don't do often, and is weird because in my real life, like my friends always do impressions of each other. You know what I mean?
I think what's difficult about this is that like it's an actor playing a character doing an impression of a character portrayed by an actor, and there's like the extra layer of like, are you doing a Dominic Toretto impression? Are you doing a Vin Diesel impression? It's like
yeah.
it's a weird. It's not a bad thing, but just like I don't know what this actually is.
You're doing a Vin Diesel impression with Dom's character's words.
Yeah.
That's what you have to be doing, because it's not like he's like Batman or something. You know what I mean? Like he's playing Dom, but he is still Vin Diesel. Like he's delivering
Yes.
it without like a weird voice or accent or something.
And so Brian, he's like, well, at least at least Dom believes in you. And she says, yeah, he believes in me. He's believing in me to death. He's on my ass 24/7. So I like that Dom here is kind of like father figure, right? Like we knew
He is, yeah.
from the Fast Five scene. I remember everything about my father. Like
Yes.
we know that like his dad helped Mia
with
do
homework.
her homework, right?
Yep.
And so it feels like Dom is following in his father's footsteps and making sure that Mia sticks to the books.
Yeah, but except he can't do medical school homework for her.
But he can still be like, this is important, you have to do this.
Exactly, and be on her ass a little bit about it. And he's like, "Oh, well, like that's good, whatever." But like she's like, "No, I think he just wants me to like be able to stitch him up." What does she say specifically? Like when he crashes?
Why do you think it means so much to him, Brian says. And she says, maybe he wants me to put him back together for free when he crashes.
And don't we see a scene later that Mia stitches up Dom? Like,
Do
isn't
we?
she like the family nurse? I think in one of the movies, like Dom is like his shoulder or his arm or something. Yeah, when Letty shoots him.
Are you confusing that with Jack and Kate from Lost?
Yes, exactly. No, when Letty shoots him in the shoulder, doesn't Mia like stitch him up?
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
We have to like pay attention to that. So that's like a really cool foreshadowing. She does become the nurse of the family, right?
Yeah. So that's actually, that whole train of thought there is one of the main reasons why Rob Cohen said they cut it. So number one, he said it was too florid and overwritten, just kind of too wordy. Like there's
That's
just too
fair.
much going on. He says he also didn't believe them in the scene, and the scene before said everything they knew about about Dom, about the relationship, about where everything fit. But he also said
Makes
that
sense.
the foreboding of Vin's death seemed fake and not necessary. That it felt like, oh, it's saying like, oh, he's gonna die, something bad's gonna happen to Dom. We don't need that.
I didn't see it as a foreshadowing of death. I saw it as a foreshadowing of like his ultimate coming to grips with his own mortality, not in the death sense, but like when he crashes could mean like when he gets caught, when he wrecks his car, when he dies, or when he goes to jail, or you know what I mean? It's like
I think it's more explicitly literal, like when he is in need of medical attention and he can't go to the cops, like what we were talking about with the getaway. Like she is his illegal veterinarian, basically, right? Like he
yeah.
knows somebody who he can go to and be like, I can't go to the cops. I was shot. I got in an accident. Whatever. I was stealing trucks, or you know what I mean? Like she's the one who could tend to Vince's wounds if they can't go to a hospital because like they were jacking a truck, right? Like
She does literally say this, but I think that she even meant it. That I can't say like when it comes crashing down, but like she needs to stitch him up figuratively when this comes crashing down.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
just
I
how
think
I
it probably
perceived
works
it.
both ways.
It
Yeah,
does, yeah. So I didn't take it as like she might have to stitch him up physically. She is going to school for a doctor, but I think that that was her like roundabout way of saying like when I have to clean up his shit that I'll be the one there because
sure.
Brian doesn't know at this point that Dom is actually the one stealing the trucks, right? Like he does, but he doesn't. So that
Right.
was like her like kind of like kicking the grass like if I have to clean up his shit after him and stuff.
Anything else about this scene, or should we go on to the next one?
No, I think that we should go into the next one. Some of these are great and we have a lot to say, and I think that some of them are just like, okay.
So the next one is very short. It is called Tanner and Brian in Police House, which I think is a very funny that feels like the name of like a Tim and Eric show, like just called like Police House. Like they have Beef House, but like Police House, just like a bunch of cops living together.
Yeah,
This is crazy to me.
go
Tanner's
ahead.
talking about the quote is talking about Bilkins. Like this is after I think after Bilkins reams out Brian.
This
Right?
is
It seems
exactly
like
what
they're
I
coming
felt too.
back.
Yep, that's where it is. Yep.
And so he says he's under a tremendous amount of pressure, just like we are God. It's getting hard to be in law enforcement. This is 2001,
I
by the way. Just
know.
keep that in mind. And then he says,
I
which is
know.
the craziest line that would have been in the movie, we got OJ on the street, officers in jail, nobody likes us anymore. Then he says, come on, let's get you back out there.
Dude,
And
when I
it's
saw
like,
this one, I was
what?
like, wow. And holy fuck, would we have had a lot to talk about if this was still in the movie, like the past 2 months, right? Like, I mean, forever, but especially
Right.
the past 2 months.
I watched these before you watched them, and I watched, obviously in order, and I was like, this first scene, Mia doing an impression, like that's crazy.
It's
And then we
nuts.
get here, and then I'm like, because I'm like, oh my god. And then like I just say like, oh my god. And then like we go here, and he's just OJ. I'm like, what the fuck? And then the next, it's just
Yep.
like, what is happening? And I can't say what's happening. And then I realized, oh, we can't even talk about these tonight
I know
because
you
we're not
fucked.
doing
I
the
know.
intro. So like I was sitting on these, and then you watch them. You're like, fuck. Like we're both like,
We
how do we not
blue-balled
talk about
ourselves.
OJ for 4 days? Like, oh my god.
How do we not talk about OJ or him saying everybody really hates the cops right now? And we're like, bro, you don't even fucking know how bad it's gonna get.
Right. But Rob Cohen said he liked this shot because it's a different perspective of the house, which I think would be very good for the minute. It's like a
Yes,
different
because
angle.
it has the picture wall behind Brian from the other side. Like normally we see like you come in through the door, they're in like a room that's looking into the.
I think where we are is through the end of the kitchen.
I'm not sure.
I think because okay, if
We're
you
to the
if you
right.
walk
We're
it
to the right of the door as you enter, because Brian
right, so
enters at the picture
right.
wall.
So I think that's what it is, though. I think when you walk in the house, there's the curved wall in front of you, right? And then to the left
Okay.
is the computer room,
Yes.
and then I
Yes.
think to the right is this room, which I think is basically what it is. But then I think to get from this room to the computer room, you can either go around the curved hallway or you can go through the kitchen hallway, basically.
So the curved wall is the back of the kitchen.
Yes, like
Okay.
where there's a dirty TV, and the back of the dirty TV is against the wall that like abuts kind of the curved wall.
That makes perfect sense to me. I think that layout is correct as well.
So there's like the curved hallway, and then like you go all the way to the rent. And I don't know what this space actually is supposed to be. Like I guess like another office or whatever, right?
It could be that office that we see all the boxes in when you look through the kitchen.
Yes, I think it's that.
But like that's just a bigger room that encompasses like you could either be on the left side of the wall or like the other side where the kitchen is. It's like a
Right.
bigger room that is
Yeah.
on like the side of the house. Yeah,
Yep.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yep.
Because also we have to keep in mind that this actually is a real house. Like they didn't make like a weird set that doesn't make sense. Like they're actually filming in a house, so like the geography of it all has to make sense, right? Like it has to.
The house doesn't exist anymore, but it did work at
Right.
some point. Yeah.
So he liked that part of it, but he said references to OJ seemed, quote, hopelessly outdated and forced, which, yeah, even like 7 years later, it's like, what? You can't, what? Come on, man.
I bet cops in LA were still talking about it, but
Oh, I'm sure they still
yeah.
are now, yeah.
Well, I mean, then there was the revival of like OJ things and stuff like that with like
Yes.
Made in America and stuff. So
Well, even like 2008 when he, in Vegas, and then there's the
yeah,
everything, right? So
yep. Now he's on Twitter sending messages to Antonio Brown. So
he's got a lot of getting even to do.
yeah.
I got nothing else about this scene, do you?
No, that was it. This is actually like one of the more mild ones. So yes, but you talked about everything that I did want to talk about. Perfect.
So the next one is, I think,
The worst.
explicitly the worst one. It's called
So
Brian and
useless.
Jesse outside Toretto's garage. And this even, like, before we even say what the scene is, Rob Cohen said, it's not needed. There's so much better to start with the design of the Supra. So we didn't need this bit of the stall. So basically, this is one where it's a little ambiguous exactly where it falls, but I guess maybe before
It comes
Jesse
right
puts
before.
the disc in.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I think that he's like, "Hey, Brian, I was up all night. I got an idea." He's like, "Let me go pee," and then they were gonna bring him in, and he puts the disc in the computer, and you don't need that at all. It's like
Right.
so useful. This is like the first scene that I saw that I was like, "Yep, cut it." Like I would have said the exact same. If this would have been the movie, I'd be like, "Yep, you can totally delete these minutes. Nobody will notice. It's fine."
That's it. There's nothing to say about it. It's just like, it's probably the shortest one. The OJ one is short. This one's also short. They're probably about 10 seconds each, but it's just like,
The only thing is that this one we get to see the contractor's pyramid again, which I was
yes.
like, "Oh, cool,
True.
nice." Yeah, they're definitely in front of Toretto's garage.
Now, this next one is the craziest one. The next one is called Trading Driving Stories. And this one, we
yeah.
have
Yep.
a shirtless Vin,
Everybody's shirtless.
shirtless
Everybody.
Dom, shirtless
Yeah.
Brian, shirtless Jesse, shirtless Leon,
Yes.
all just lying on a truck, baking in the sun, and talking about when they learned to drive.
It's so good.
I was describing this to my friend Desiree, and she said, "This sounds like them throwing the football around in the room." I was like, "That's exactly the
What
right
it is.
thing."
Wow.
There's no reason for
Yep.
this.
Nope.
It's amazing, but it's all just like, what are we looking at? I don't know when this happens. Like we have like a rough sense in the movie like where this could be,
I think when they were like working on the car, right? Like working on the Supra, it has to be like a break scene.
but like where do like Letty and Mia go? Like it just like why
They
is
could be
it just feels like
inside. This is like this is after right after he owns you now. Like when Mia whispers that, that's what I'm
yeah,
imagining.
but it just feels crazy. Apparently, this was entirely improvised. Like they were just like shooting the shit. The shirts off. It was a hot day. Rob Cohen said they were working on a car. There's the smell of grease. They're drinking the beer. Remember when the cars came into their lives? He said there's no room for it in the film. Though some of the sentiments and the insights, which we'll talk about in a second. He said it was sorry to cut it, but it stopped the film cold. In a movie called The Fast and the Furious, anything that stops the movie cold
does.
must hit the bin.
Yep. I love the scene, but if you would have put that anywhere in like a montage or something, it would have been like jarring. Like how sentimental and like soft the movie got. The pace would have been completely thrown off. He's right.
Right. So we hear from Dom that he was 5 years old when
Yep.
he learned how to drive. He was sitting on his father's lap. He's got me propped up, both my hands on the steering wheel, kept going faster and faster. I remember him laughing. The faster we went, the happier he was. And it's like, oh, that seems foreboding, which, it is. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to die in a car accident
Yep.
before too long.
Leon goes next, and he's like, "My mom taught me how to drive." And they're like, "Oh, dude, your mom taught you how to drive? Like, that's kind of weird." And he's like, "Yeah, before she left." So that's like the first time we get like Leon like saying that his mom wasn't around.
I love about this, and then the next scene, I think maybe not the next scene, in a couple scenes from now, we're going to know about Vince's mom, too. And it feels like they really had an explicit, like, let's bring in family. And I think by paring it down to being like, the family that we see on screen, essentially, it makes more sense. Plus the stories that Dom tells about his dad or whatever,
You're
right?
right. Yep.
It's crazy to me that we learn so much about these like ancillary characters' moms. It's like, oh, but then yeah, Leon's
Yes.
like, I hate her for leaving, but I can't hate her for teaching me how to drive a car. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like she's still got that coolness to her. Yeah, that was I think that was cool. And then Brian,
Even in this, he's like such a narc. He's like, I didn't drive till I had my learner's permit. It's like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
cool guy,
but
thanks.
do you think Brian's story? I think that Brian's story is Paul Walker's actual story. That seemed like he was like, okay, now it's my turn to tell my story, and then Paul Walker's told a story that was like real.
Well, so this is interesting. It could be Paul Walker's story.
It doesn't
It
feel
could
in
be Brian
character at all.
O'Connor's story, or it could be Brian Earl Spillner's story. Like he could be telling a story about another guy, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But no, it really felt like Vin did his in character. Leon does his in character. And then Paul Walker is like, wait, guys, I actually got a story. And then, like, tell. It just felt too like it almost happened, right? So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because he's like, I got my learner's permit. I get on the highway, first time driving with my mom. Some guy rear ends me, 5 car pile up, huge fucking crash, and like that was my story.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, like that actually sounds like it could have happened, right? Like it's not even like it's far-fetched, but far-fetched enough that it's like this could be real.
And then Jesse's dad bought him a '71 Malibu Classic. We hear again about Jesse's dad. I mean, I think this would have
Yeah.
been good. Like we talked about in a recent minute how we didn't know about Jesse's dad until like he's in prison, right? We're like, where the fuck
Yeah.
where'd he come from? Like we don't have that father son bond there. But he says, first day I got my license, it was the greatest day. He says he also it was also the first day he had sex. I shit you not. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like it's
The
less about
delivery
him
was weird. I know.
learning to drive, but it's more like, hey, it was a good day. Like I got laid and I got a car. You know what I mean?
I'll
So
never forget this day. Yeah, like I turned 16, my dad bought me a car, I had sex. Like that has
yeah.
to be top tier. Like you had to be like on top of the world that day.
I noticed again. I mean, it makes sense because like when Brian's there, Vince is not. But it feels like Vince almost should be here. You know what I mean? Like it feels like these are just the
Yeah.
boys hanging out, but Vince again missing. Maybe he's with his mom, which we'll find out later, or
Yeah.
maybe he's just like I don't want to be around when the Buster's there. But it feels like Vince kind of should be there. But also, it's cool the four of them.
It is. It is.
But
Go
the
ahead.
one thing, if this scene was in the movie, it would never be in the movie because of all the things we talked about before. If this scene was in the movie, there would be this quote that Dom says that would be like up there with the all-timer like
Yep.
iconic quotes from the movie. He
100%.
says, "There's something about learning to drive. You're a driver or you're not a driver. So up until you start driving is one lifetime. Then after you start driving, it's another lifetime." And it's like, oh shit, like that feels like one of those like on a T-shirt somewhere, right?
I
Like two
agree.
lifetimes.
And to memorialize it, I have an idea that I want to pitch to you. In our rapid fire questions quiz, are you a driver or are you the man in the chair? I think that the question should now forever be changed to are you a driver or are you not a driver?
I don't think it should replace that. I think it could be a different question. I don't mind asking a different question.
How would it be different than the other one?
This is like the awakening. This is essentially like what Nico's going to talk about in this episode about like the red pill, the blue pill, like are if you want to wake up. Like I think that you can be in this world and know that you need to be support. I feel like this is Dom saying like, you're not really part of us until you learn how to drive. And I think that you can drive. Like Mia is a support, but Mia's also a driver.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that the question would ever fundamentally change. I just say the way that we ask it, and then we're like, oh, or are you the man in the chair? But we just like memorialize this as the question.
It's more negative, I think. Because if we're just saying like, are you a driver? Or are you not a driver? It's like people are gonna be like, well, I'm a driver. Like I want to be in on it. You know what I mean? But I feel like
You other them with the not a driver.
kind of.
I want to find something to do with this quote because I love it and it needs to go somewhere, and that's where I was trying to put it.
Spoiler, but I dropped the quote in the second half that now Nico and Kevo are in the world of having seen this first movie, right? So like they're
Yeah.
all the proverbial cherry has been popped.
Yes.
Anything else about the scene? This is like I think one of the longer scenes, one of the more
No,
one of the,
that,
probably
that
the
end of
craziest
that
scene.
part, that Dom, the before and after, him drawing it on his arm with his hand is perfect. So
Yeah, yeah. The next scene feels unnecessary again. This is Hector and Brian at the racer's edge.
yeah,
Hector's saying to Brian, like, oh, I heard that, like, shit was crazy last night. Like, I shouldn't have raced you because I would have lost. But, like, Brian lost, right? Like, it feels like a weird, like, I don't know where he's going with this.
Brian lost, but he almost beat Dom. So that's
So
the
it is. So even though the whole crowd is, like, ragging on Brian for being a buster, Hector's like, oh, but I recognize that, like, you ran a good race.
yeah. If you're coming close to Dom Toretto levels, like he's like you would have definitely beaten me. You know what I mean? Like you
Okay.
almost had Dom. Although he never had him, he never had his car. If you're doing close enough to compete with Dom, Like, you're doing good, is what he's saying.
I love the way that Hector's like, I would have been out some lunch money. Like, it's a very specific, like,
It's a very Wells line, isn't it? He lost his whole lunch money on that one. Like,
there's something interesting that happens in this one that happens again in a couple other scenes that they're continuing to add to this sort of like rivalry ish between the family and Tran. That they're like, I heard Tran went psycho on that shit. Like the story about Tran shooting up the car is like becoming legend kind of, and I feel like
yes.
in the movie itself, for as crazy as that thing was, they don't talk about it like ever. And I feel like in a couple of these scenes, they actually finally bring it up. It's like, yeah, you should bring it up because that was insane what happened.
And this would be the talk of the town.
Yeah,
Like in the street race, you're like, okay, some kid shows up in a new Eclipse, almost beats Dom. Dom wins the car from him because he raced for slips, and then the car disappeared. Everybody'd be like, "Yo, where's that Eclipse that Dom just won?" And then you're like, "Bro, you didn't hear Johnny Tran just blasted it? The thing
right.
fucking exploded everywhere." Like everyone will be talking about this forever. This would be a story that I would tell all the time.
Oh, you mean that scene where it's like, ba-bow, which we will talk about. These sound effects that Dom does. Growl! Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We're almost there.
It does feel like at certain points, like the movie is like, oh yeah, like we're living in a movie and like crazy shit happens and we don't have to talk about it. Like some of these, it's like, oh no, we need to take a step back and talk about how the fact that like Johnny Tran and Lance rolled up with like Uzis and shot our car until it blew up. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck?
The other thing that I want to say about this scene, though, is that we've talked about Hector a lot, and Hector, he has to have his ear in the streets, right? Like, for him to know that this happened, and he obviously didn't hear it from Brian, he heard it from someone.
Well, Brian says, how'd you hear about it? And Hector says, words. They
Words.
float in the air. Float.
Yeah, exactly. But he's saying, like, I hear shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
around. I'm on the
It's
block.
basically like Varys on Game of Thrones. Just like he's got his little birds. He's got his network of like
Yep.
spies all around.
I'm in the streets. Like, I heard
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, he's not a bald eunuch. He's just, he's a
Yeah.
bald tough guy.
It's-
Rob Cohen said they cut this one because it stopped the flow of the movie and it referred to a scene that we've already seen, which I get. But again, I think that they could do, maybe don't do it here, but I feel like adding the fact that like people know that this feud is boiling
Yeah.
between Tran and Dom makes the ending feel,
It makes the race wars fight more potent.
which we will get to.
Yes.
The next scene is probably the longest deleted scene. This is Brian and Mia at the beach, and this is immediately following their date. This is after Mia drives them away from Cha Cha Cha. There's a lot of lead up to them. Like, because these are all, like, they look like they could be in the movie, but they're maybe not the final version of what they would have been if they were in the movie. But there's, like, a 45-second, like, a minute-long exterior of their car pulling up to a beach before they get out. I'm like, why is this so long? Like, it feels like,
Yeah.
like it's just the complete uncompressed whatever.
Yeah.
But then they get out there and Mia's like, it's my beach, that's my ocean. And then Brian's like, is that your moon? She says, yeah, it is, I'm possessive. Like, it's just like this cute banter, but like, I don't know.
It's cute, and I was thinking, how interrelated is that to they were just at dinner, and she said, my brother's like gravity, everything just gets pulled to him. And then she says, is that your moon too? And she's like, yes, it is. Or like, this is my moon too. Dom is the gravity, but Mia is the universe.
Well, we talked about, didn't we name one of the minutes? Mia also has the properties of gravity as well, gravitational properties as well.
Yeah,
Like,
we
she's
did.
basically, because I mean, the whole like the oceans have tides and stuff and all that because of the moon. Like, she's basically saying, I'm Mother Nature. I am the universe. You're right. Like, it's like Dom is part of this, but I am the whole thing. So
And in reality, and we've said it before, Mia is the cornerstone to everything, right? Like,
Yep,
she's what brings Brian together, and she takes care of the family. She is the backbone of the whole thing, so she is the universe.
they lie down on her hood, which I'm like, I get that like people lie on cars, but it feels like this is probably
No.
a fairly expensive tuner. Like, why are you doing this? But also, it's
Yeah,
a movie.
you wouldn't do. I don't think you would lay on your hood, and then like you have sneakers, and like they're all wearing like goofy ass '90s belts, so you're
with
gonna like
with studs
metal
and stuff
rub it.
everywhere. Yep.
Yeah, like what are you doing? No,
And
don't
they
do
start making out on the hood, and she says it's not here. And I'm like, oh, cool. We're gonna go back to
Yes.
Racer's Edge, and then they go in the car. She's like, here, and then she sits on him, and they continue making out, and she like he grabs her ass. I'm like, oh, this is so
Yes.
here. Okay, Rob Cohen's got some stuff. He's like, this is what really splits it between being a PG-13 and an R-rated film. He says like it kind of lacks the edge and the texture of the film. It's too precious. says it doesn't have any bite. He learned a thing from the skulls, and he says I don't like he feels like weird saying this, but he said that he heard from a producer in the skulls there was a love scene between Leslie Bibb and Joshua Jackson in the shower, right?
Yes, I remember this. Yep.
He apparently filmed like a much hotter scene than that, but someone told him, if you won't show me her breasts, don't waste my time. So he didn't love it, and
Oh,
then in the PG-13, it's best to avoid the gray area. So it's basically like, if you're in a movie, like again, like it's all like the sexist objective whatever
yep.
making women into objects or whatever, but basically if you're going to objectify the actors in this way and have like a hot steamy
Sex scene.
scene but don't show me boobs, what are you doing here? Like we
I
don't
agree
need
with
like
that.
he liked kind of I think the idea of this, but while they were filming it, he said that literally the night they were filming it, he knew it wasn't going to make the movie. He didn't have the heart to tell them that it wasn't going to make the cut, and he's like they were he says they were enjoying kissing each other. Who wanted to break that up? He said
Ugh.
also the crew was on overtime while shooting this, and I wanted to make sure that they could pay for their kids to go to college. It's like, what the fuck? Like, just feels like they wasted like a whole night like shooting the
Oh yeah.
scene to like film Paul Walker and Jordana Brewster making out in the car, him grabbing her ass, and be like, yeah, we're not going to use it though. Like,
Yep.
it's like a weird like chain of events, but apparently it was never going to make the movie, which I get. It's way too long.
Feels kind of disjointed.
It at least helps build up like why they go, because we see them go from cha 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 to like naked in bed basically, right? And it's like, well,
Yes.
here's what happened in between, which makes sense.
It fills in the gap, but like you could also just blank fill in the gap in your head. Like you're like, okay, yeah, obviously they were like driving home, they had some cute banter, and then like they wind up at the racer's edge. Like that's what happened. But the other thing I want to say about this though is for all the times that we see cars in the Fast and Furious and all the relationships that are in the Fast and Furious, we don't often see hooking up in a car until we get to You Are My Lifespan. So I wonder if Mia taught Ellie Toretto how to hook up in a car from this scene.
Well, I mean, the most iconic one, and it's way after where we are in lifespan, but like Han and Giselle, right? Like they hold it down in the car,
But
but
that's
this
like a
is
perfect scene, though.
yeah.
That's like a complete. It's not like them making out in the car. It's just Giselle on Han's lap as he's driving is like so much cooler than like Mia pulling the seat down to recline. Like that's so lame. When Lifespan started, I don't think that Han and Giselle were riding on top of their laps in the car either. I wonder if this is an inspiration for Johnny Tran and Ellie hooking up in a car.
I will never say no to a lifespan theory.
Plus, that you can never confirm or deny them, so they can just go wherever
Exactly.
I want. Yeah.
So then we have the final two on the disc are extended scenes, alternate cuts of scenes from the movie. So the first one is the original edit of the Ferrari scene, and my first note is, oh god, this
Yep.
is so much worse.
It's so much worse. He says, more than you can afford, asshole. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, it loses so much by not being the 80-yard pal.
Because I watched it again because I'd seen this and I went back and I don't even think it's ADR. I think they just had an alternate cut because I looked back and he says pal like it's not mouthed differently.
Oh,
It's
really?
they
Oh, I
just did
didn't
alternate
notice.
takes.
Oh, I just
Because
thought
he
that.
says more than you can afford, asshole. Ferrari, 255,000, all cash, one IPO. Here we go. It's like what a like I get
It's
it, but like
so lame.
you
It
get
makes
the
him even
smugness.
worse.
Also, we get the passenger. Ferrari passenger has a line. She says, "Someplace on the beach." Just cool. Like that's a thing. Rob Cohen was talking about. He's like, "This is Neil because this is the producer Neil Morris." He says, "This is just Neil milking his part." He says, "One of the great pleasures you can have as a director is cutting down a producer's part in the film." He says it's actually an excessive pleasure because it's like the one part of the movie where like you have control over the producer. 'Cause
Oh,
the producer
yeah.
controls everything else. You're just like, yeah, we're just not going to use this. We're going to use like your shorter take or whatever. But it's the right call. It's what's in the
It's
movie is
way
better.
better. Yeah, way, way better. I agree. And it's also funny that that's like a small, like, jab at him.
And then there's the other extended scene. There's the original edit of the Race Wars fight scene.
Which is way worse as well. Jeez.
Right. And this is what we're going to get to, I think, in the next minute or maybe the next 2 minutes or whatever. But this is after Dom and Johnny scrap. And then Johnny, this is kind of cool, where he's on the ground bleeding from the
Yes.
mouth. He just says, it's all on you. This is all on you.
I
It's
think
like,
that
oof.
that scene is still in the movie. They like just cut it so that you don't see his mouth moving, or his mouth moves and you don't hear what he says.
I don't know. We're going to find out very, 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 very soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to that part in a minute for that reason. But then after he like, and then it cuts to Brian. So they're like, oh, which is useless for the movie. So I'm
Right.
glad that they took this out. Like Johnny Tran now knows Brian's the cop, right? Like if Vince freaked or like Dom freaked out like that and punched him and is so adamant about it, he's like, okay, cool. It was definitely Brian. Then it's this guy's fault. It doesn't mean anything because like that doesn't matter if Johnny Tran knows that Brian's a cop or not. Dom needs to find out.
Exactly.
And it just takes away from like the last scene that we're talking about. That like when Dom sees Brian as a cop, that's like
Which we talk about in the back half with Nico and Kevo.
exactly. It's a much different thing.
Vince says if anyone's a narc around here, you know who it is, right? Rob Cohen was saying that instead of leaving at peak emotion like we do in the movie, we went to this where the crowd dispersed and so was the energy. It's basically just like, we instead of leaving on a high, we like let it come down. It's just like, well, it's less effective overall. So
Yeah, and if Vince like reminds Dom beforehand, it also subtracts from the end scene too. I liked it. I'm glad that we got to see it, but at the same time, like, good. Glad it was gone.
So these next three, the final three, are the ones that are on YouTube. There is the first one is called "Moving Out," and this is where Tanner drops Brian off at 1327.
So
I don't know where this would go. Either the final scene in the movie or like a post-credit scene, maybe.
Yes, it's one of those two. It's either like an alternate ending or a post-credit scene.
Because the way the movie ends is that Brian gives Dom the keys to the car. He walks away. Go to credits. After the credits, we have Dom driving through Mexico. Right? Like that's what this is. I guess they didn't know it was going to be a franchise, right? And it kind of feels like this is like the ending to like a Hollywood movie. But again, we talked about this in the back half of the episode too. It's not Brian and Mia's movie. It's Brian and Dom's movie. And I feel like putting this here, it underserves the movie. It also totally changes the turbocharged prelude and Too Fast and Fast and Furious #4.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't if things don't work out, but it feels like they're on the bridge to reconciliation as opposed to like, he just lied to me. He betrayed me and my family. He wanted to arrest my brother. He did a good thing, but also fuck him forever. It feels weird that like she's moving and like we'll give him the time of day.
I agree, and also it feels weird that the cops would let you go back to like the Perp sisters' house.
And they even talk about that too. Brian's like, I quit. They let me go quietly, and then Tanner drops him off. It's like, what world? In what world?
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. Now thinking about it, I was like, is Brian lying to Mia, or is Tanner being like, so long forever, bud? Like, on the way out, I'll give you a ride because I know that we took your car back too.
It's like the end of John Wick 2, I think, where it's just like, I got to call this one in, but like I'm going to give you a 1 hour head start, right? It's just like, if we think about it in turbocharged prelude, right? Like it kind of feels like Brian maybe immediately goes from giving Dom the keys to like, I got to get the fuck out of town.
Yes, you're right, because he like goes to his house and like scrambles kind of,
right,
and all these things. Yes,
it's just it's weird, and she's like icy to him, which makes sense. Like she calls him officer,
but she also like isn't non-receptive to it, right? Like she's not like, no, fuck off forever. She's like,
so what do you want? And he says, I want another chance with you. She says it's not going to be that easy. Then Brian says, I got time. And I was like, oof.
I got time. Yes.
Oof. Of all the things at the house, why is she packing the trophies? Like I guess they're the dad's trophies, so like she wants to keep them, but like I guess she's just doing something outside. It just feels like there's so many other things she could be doing to like kill time in the scene. Like why is she packing trophies? I don't know.
I think that she's like she's trying to do like the Dom reminiscing, like looking over the garage, missing her dad type thing. It doesn't play well. It's a weird scene. Like I have so many more questions than answers, but it does feel like this was like an alternate ending or like a different ending, and they're like, yeah, that doesn't work.
I have nothing else in the scene. You have anything else in this scene?
No, he got time. He's like, I got time. I was like, oh god, yes.
So the next one is slowed down a bit, which is again on YouTube. This is mid-party. This is after, I don't know when. Maybe this is when Brian and Mia go off to talk in the dining room. I guess after.
I think no,
or
because they go upstairs. Because
right.
Because I think it would have to be like pretty much like this would be an alternate cut.
Brian gets the beer. He gets Vince's beer, and then he goes to the bathroom, right? Like, you guys got a bathroom.
So it might be then.
Then?
It might be then, because Brian comes back down, and then they, like, look at each other weird. Yeah, it had to have been, like, right at that point. That makes sense. Yep.
And this is when Leon asks about the eclipse, and then Dom says, there is no more eclipse. I ran into Johnny Tran. He shot that shit up like, growl! Remember how much Nas was in that thing? Ba-bow! And then Jesse's talking about it like it's like, a dead, like a fallen soldier. She's like, you don't do that shit. You don't do that shit, man. And he's like, you know what, it's 30 grand in there, Dom. You don't do that shit. And then Dom says he's going to make Johnny Tran, quote, make good on it. I'm like, ooh, that's tall order for like your arch rival in this movie.
Yeah, it was weird. I think that they cut it because it was like too much of sound effects from Vin Diesel. That alone, I would be like, yeah, don't do that in the movie. Just like, we don't need that.
It's very funny, but it's also like, what are you doing? Also, the name of this like deleted scene comes from Dom basically saying to Jesse, slow down a bit. Let's not get worked up about Johnny Tran. He's gonna make good on it. It's just like, well, is he?
Yeah, is he? And like, can you really just go collect like 30 grand from Johnny Tran? Like,
You don't just pick up Owen Shaw like he's groceries. You don't pick up Johnny Tran like he's groceries.
what if when Johnny Tran wins the Jeddah, Dom's like, why didn't he just look at Johnny Tran and be like, okay, now we're even for the eclipse, and just calls it a wash? Johnny Tran never gets mad at Dom, and they never have a fight, and then they never run away, and the whole movie just collapses
Why does Johnny shoot the eclipse?
because he's just being a dickhead and he's mad at Dom.
Because he slept with his sister and
A
whatever,
business deal
right?
gone bad. Yeah.
So it's just like generic bad blood.
Yes.
So maybe, like, okay, so then he says, the Jedi drives off, we're even. It still doesn't make things right, but at least, like, doesn't escalate things. Like, there's still bad blood, but yeah, I don't know. I guess
There's
Jesse
still
doesn't
bad
die
blood.
in
He's
that.
like, yeah, but remember that eclipse, bro? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
But
Where the
also,
fuck is
but
my
then Johnny could
eclipse?
say, they both said it's not their car, it's nobody's car. Like, you didn't lose a car because you said it's nobody's car, so I just shot the car. So, like, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of how he could be like, no, you still owe, like, we raced for pinks, that's my Jetta.
Yeah, it's definitely not how this would play out. Like, you'd
God,
never
I
be
know
like,
so many goddamn quotes in this movie. It sickens me. Like I have the exact line reading in my head of Johnny Tran. Oh, it's nobody's car. Like,
yeah,
why is that in my brain? Why is that in my brain?
it's a, it's a beautiful machine.
Beautiful machine. The final scene is How Is Your Mother on YouTube.
This
And this is, again, a crazy, crazy scene.
this would have wrecked the whole movie, I think, if this would have stayed.
It's a very weird scene. It's a scene that's in the movie. It's an extended cut of the Let's Eat Some Grub Man scene.
Yes, where Jesse does the "you're praying to the car gods," you took the
Yes.
first piece of chicken. It doesn't have those parts. It has like a completely different set of parts.
This is when Old Coyotes R Us shows up. And then Dom says, coming from the hospital, Vince? I'm sorry, I'm laughing only because it's like, where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah.
Coming from the hospital, Vince, how is your mother doing? And it's like, what? Where?
And I thought that he
what?
was. And the first time I watched this, I thought he's like being a dick, like coming from the hospital, like, "How's your mom?" And you're
Like,
like,
say hi to your mom for me, like a Mark Wahlberg thing?
"Yeah, yeah," and it's not. This is a very somber moment.
It makes you think, because we obviously know that Vince hates Brian, but is Vince now not with the family through much of this movie because of
Yes.
his mom? Like, it's not
Yes.
Brian as much as the mom?
Not that he doesn't want to be around the Buster. It's that he's taking care of his mom, who's like in hospice. She seems like she's not doing well. Like, they're like end of the line talking. They're like, "Oh well, like I started giving her this painkiller because like."
Right. They put together a plate for her. Yeah. Like, it's like the little gestures. Like, things are bad, but like, here's some food, maybe.
But it does like a weird explanation of like, why is Vince so moody, so irritable, like when he shows up and sees Brian and like flies off the handle? Instead of it being like he hates Brian, it's like, oh, Vince is excused for all of his emotional weirdness in
Right.
this movie. It's a very strange scene. I think it would have thrown like a huge wrench in it for me. Because like all of a sudden now Vince isn't like a villain. He's someone that you feel compassion for, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What I also loved was that Dom calls Brian Speed Racer. He's like, so what's on your mind, Speed Racer? What are you thinking about? You're deep in thought over there. And Brian just gets like all mushy, just like, this is so nice. Picnic and the barbecue. It's like a family. And like, that's a cool reference. But then like 15 minutes later, they're at Cha 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 and he's calling them a gang. So it's like, well, why are you saying family here? And then a gang in 50. Like, it just feels like a weird kind of disconnect. Like, there's no consistency within the Brian
fucking
character.
Mark. Yes. And also, you wouldn't say, like, it feels so nice, like, such a family here after you hear Vince's, like, who's, like, your enemy's mom is, like, really sick.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? You'd be like, bro, like, I'm sorry to hear about that. Like, I didn't know. You know, like,
Yeah.
that should be your first reaction. Like, and then their beef is squashed. There's no.
Yeah. And then maybe that's why he's staring daggers at Brian instead of being with Mia. It's because he's like not saying "I'm sorry about your mom." Just like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is pretty nice, right? Like this is like a family." It's like, well, guy, come on, read the room.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everybody just took, like, a really quiet spot. And then, like, Letty has to be like, oh, get some grub.
Well, no, because what I love about Letty is that she busts balls. She's like, "What are you, an orphan?" And then he just
Yeah.
says, "No,
Oh,
it's just
yeah,
whenever
yeah.
I show up, my dad calls the cops." Then that's when Dom like laughs and like slaps the table like in all movie, like
Which is terrible. The worst acting. Like, also that's why they cut this, because like Dom's fake laughter about the cops thing is like
Yeah.
really bad.
It's also very obvious knowing what happens, but he's like, that's funny. No cops at the Toretto house. That's rule number one. And then somebody else says, no pigs, oink,
Oink,
oink. And
oink.
it's just like,
Yeah.
okay. But, like, we know what's coming. By this point, we know that Brian's a cop, right? Like, so, like, we don't need the extra tension of, like, oh my God, did
The
you know that Dom doesn't
tongue-in-cheek.
hate cops? It's like, yeah, of course he doesn't like cops.
Yes. You can hate cops and know that Brian's a cop without having the cop scene with OJ and this
Yeah.
scene. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
we removed those two.
In spite of the fact that we have issues and like we know why a lot of these were cut, like these are well worth your
Wow.
10 minutes. Like they're
For
so
sure, dude.
they're crazy. It's crazy. And like these are all, I mean, they're all in the script. They were all shot. Like this is all, as far as we're concerned, this is canon. So like, watching these again, we have to keep in mind, as dumb as it sounds, we haven't seen the movie since we saw the scenes, right? Like we watched the movie and then we watched the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a different way of seeing Vince, of seeing
Oh,
Leon, of
yeah.
seeing Johnny Tran or whatever, right? So
Like, rewatch the movie with Vince's mom being sick the whole time. It's gonna
yeah,
totally change everything.
no wonder he's so aggro.
Yeah, no, it really excuses a lot of his
Yeah.
behavior. You're just
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like, yeah, dude, like, while he's like, all of his friends are hanging out, they're pretty much replacing him with a guy that he doesn't like, and your mom's dying. You can't even,
Yeah.
like, go try to mend your friendships because, like, you have to take care of your sick mom. And they're kind of sympathetic, but not really. Like, they're not like,
Yeah.
Vince, bro, we got your spot. Like, you're not going anywhere, bud. Like, they don't, like, come with him or try to help him. It's just like, go do your shit and then come back. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, you're so
Yeah.
torn. Your whole world's crumbling.
It's like if while you were dealing with your dad, I'm like, hey, here's my friend. He's a Patriots fan. We're gonna, just try him out on the show. He's just, he's not gonna
Yeah.
replace you, but he's just gonna be on the show with us. And like, it's oh, but you do your thing.
Take
he and
care
I
of
can do
him.
the
Tell
show
him we
together.
said hi. Hope he
Yeah.
gets better. But like, yeah, you'd be like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even like this guy. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what?
Any other thoughts about the deleted scenes? Because these, again, wonderful.
Awesome, and I can't wait to do them for Too Fast. Blew my mind with this. I hope that all of them are good, and I know that we watch I watch all the extended cuts,
Yes, now I do too. Yeah.
so I don't know what I'm gonna actually get, but I think the deleted scenes are different than the extended cuts, right?
Well, the extended cuts are like approved, like it's like the version that the director wanted. Like these were things that like explicitly were cut for a reason. The extended cut is basically, I think, like if the director or the producer, whoever, like had their final say, and Universal or whatever was like, oh no, it needs to be under 2 hours or whatever. Like sometimes
Okay.
like the studio gives that
Yeah.
thing. This is what it would have been. Like the extended cut is like this, whatever. Or sometimes they do like the unrated cut. It's like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith unrated. Like see like the raunchy sex scene. It's like no, there's just like an extra 30 seconds of something. They just didn't rate it because they're not going to re-show the MPAA, right? So it's like it's all
Exactly,
it's marketing bullshit. This is actually stuff that like never was
Deleted
going to be in the movie.
scenes.
Yes, that basically as soon as they shot her while they got in the editing booth, they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Like it's a different thing, less canon than like extended scenes, but it's also like this is all shot and edited and whatever and worth talking about for
There
sure.
was script for it. They shot it with the actors. Like, it existed somewhere. So
Yep,
yeah.
yeah. One thing I want to say before we take a break is that by the time this episode comes out, we will have recorded, but the episode won't have come out. We're doing another episode of the Rocky Maivia Picture Show with Nate Milton.
Oh, that's
We are
true.
talking about Fast and Furious 6, and so according to Nate, that episode will be out this Saturday, the 25th. So we'll talk
cool.
about it again on the Widows episode on Friday. Joe and I, as we're recording this, would have talked to Nate about it last night. And so this Saturday, check out the Rocky Maivia Picture Show to jump kind of ahead in the lap and hear us talk about Fast and Furious 6. But I meant to mention that earlier. Forgot. We had a lot going on. But
So much going on today, but yeah.
I'm looking forward to that because, Nate's awesome. And I'm
Nate's
looking forward to
awesome,
seeing
dude.
that movie again. So,
I just want to talk to him. He's just a good guy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
happy to just bullshit with him.
well, Joe, let's take a break. Let us hear Wes's interlude music and then bring in Nico and Kevo to talk about The Fast and the Furious.
It's a good one. Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 110, The Fast and the Furious, Lap 7. This episode is brought to you by Focus Factor. A clinical study showed that adults who took the original Focus Factor as directed for 6 weeks improved their memory, concentration, and focus, a 44% increase in memory recall. Shout out to Focus Factor.
Shout out to Focus Factor indeed. Well, Joe, we are kicking off lap 7 in earnest. You, the listener, heard our two guests on our lap 6 relap recap, our tune-up, as we gave them, they got an estimate of what they knew, what they expected, what they feared, what they hoped for. With us tonight, the co-hosts of the Husbands Talking More or Less podcast right here on the Cage Club Podcast Network. We have Kevo, Risse, and Nico, Vasilo. Hello, guys.
Hey, I'm here.
Welcome.
Woohoo! Vroom vroom.
Hey, guys. Welcome back. You are new. Okay, so as we talked about in the intro, wink wink, there's a deleted scene where Dom talks about life being split into two parts, right? Before you drive and after you drive. Now, you guys you are now in a new part of your life. You have now entered the world in which you have seen a Fast and the Furious movie, and so congratulations on that.
Well, yeah, I do actually kind of feel a little bit like I took the blue pill.
Is that the right one?
Is that the right one?
Is that the right pill?
The blue pill is the one that brings you back to reality.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like I took the blue pill.
So you're not fully awake yet.
I'm
no.
bald Keanu waking up in the
that's
embryonic
red.
sac.
That's red.
That's the red pill.
red.
That's the red pill.
No, that's what I am. I'm in goo.
You're
Okay.
in goo.
I am
covered
in
in goo.
a Gwyneth Paltrow publication. All kinds of goop.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye. If you guys ever do well, actually, I already talked about The Matrix. I don't need to be on that. I was like, if you ever do The Matrix.html, I would love to be on, but I've already covered all of that on Keanu Club. Check out Keanu Club on this very fine podcast.
Quite seriously, I can't stop coming back to Keanu right now, so I would love for you and I to do The Matrix together.
He's pitched it.
Well, there we go. I feel like it's ripe in your wheelhouse, but let us not go into Keanu, because there's a rumor. Don't want to get too much. He's not in this franchise yet, but there are rumors that he will one day join the franchise. So at that point...
No. I'm sorry. I need to jump in. I actually believe he's already in this franchise. I need you to
God.
understand.
Oh, God.
So there's a video game series from a trillion years ago called Shadow Hearts, and it's sort of prequeled by this marvelous video game called Kudelka. You'd have to play both and pay attention to all the dialogue to know they're connected. It's kind of the way Sailor V, the manga, becomes the manga in Sailor Moon, and it kind of like, it's like a secret pilot. It's sort of like the way Dirty Dancing Havana Nights makes Dirty Dancing kind of a thing.
Okay.
I feel like the music video to Paula Abdul's Rush Rush is the prequel to this film, and it is where Paula Abdul becomes the Fast Furious Force.
It's basically her reenacting a lot of the plot of Rebel Without a Cause with Keanu Reeves, but there's also a little bit of Phantom of the Opera in there.
Just the right faggy amount of West Side Story.
So, Joe, I want you to know that Nico explained this entire thing to me, not entire thing, most of it on Facebook today, and I still don't understand it fully. Like, this is now the second time I've heard it. I'm not invested, and I've seen Rush Rush.
And that's a phenomenal music video. I just need to specify.
We did an entire episode of Keanu Club about Rush Rush with Lindsay Gibb.
Oh,
the
that's
book
great.
about Nicolas Cage. We've been there. I still don't. It's like a Pepe Sylvia arrangement of facts and stuff that I don't.
No, it's
fully,
like she's this trauma that she experiences, that moment where she thinks he might have gone off the ledge. I mean, he doesn't, but she thinks he might have. And in that moment, she transcends this world and becomes the Fast Furious Force, a spirit that now helps car people.
Okay, but how can we work in Celine Dion from the All
Coming Back to Me Now video?
Yeah.
100%. I'm there with you. That's
I
some
know.
sort of like ethereal energy counterpart. Maybe
Okay.
that's some kind of like, ooh, the Tesla.
But she's Canadian, so it'd have to be in kilometers per hour.
Oh, okay, yeah, she's the Canadian
It'd be
equivalent.
quarter kilometers at a time.
Celine Dion is, of course, the Canadian answer. Wait, no, I was about to say Celine Dion is the Canadian answer to Paula Abdul, but I am positive that, if I'm not mistaken, Paula Abdul's father is Syrian Jewish by way of Canada. I feel like I really used to think she was forever my girl, okay? I was really into Paula Abdul.
We did some either-or questions, so before we talk about the movie, before we have conversation questions to kick the things off, we are going to ask some either-or questions, our lightning round. There are going to be these kind of questions in every episode.
I think you
We're gonna
mean
keep going.
your NOS round. Oh yeah, I've seen it now. I know shit.
We could call it the Nas. I mean, we have Nas incorporated into names of other things. Like, we're not completely bad at naming.
I can't believe you don't call it the tuna-up round.
Ooh.
To be clear, we were supposed to watch the 1954 Roger Corman film, The Fast and the Furious, right?
I love that would be
Exactly.
the second Roger Corman movie we are dragging Joey down with this month.
week.
This week, even.
This
Yeah.
week. Yeah, this week.
Nothing like being the anchor around your friends' lives.
Nico said, thank you for being on that episode. I'm so glad that the worst part of your week is one of the best parts of my week. And if that's not exactly what that hour of HTML is, I don't know how a better way to describe it is.
If that's not exactly
Perfect.
Nico, I don't know a better way to describe Nico. And I try to warn you people, but you
Also
eat it
true.
up.
Also true.
You love it.
Very important questions for the two of you. Are you more, now that you've seen this first movie, do you consider yourself more of a Brian or a Dom? A Dominic Toretto. Let me be very careful in my wording.
Yes.
A Brian O'Connor or a Dominic Toretto?
All right, I'm gonna.
Because we're gay.
If these.
You
Yeah.
brought the joke up today.
I
This was
did,
not
I
my
did.
thing.
I
You
didn't.
brought it up.
I was told I was supposed to call Joey the Dom, and I was like, we clearly have a misunderstanding about what the Dom is. If you think I'm calling someone else a Dom, got it.
I just want to make it clear that I was not being inconsiderate or
Oh,
homophobic.
not
or
at all.
anything.
No. I'm gonna say Dom for sure, but if I actually had my say, I'm saying Letty all the way.
Different question. We're going to get to that. But of those two,
Dom.
you're a Dom. Okay.
20,000%.
Yeah, same.
You might have the same answer again. Are you more of a Mia Toretto or a Letty Ortiz? This lap is the Letty Ortiz lap. Keep that in mind. Are you more of a Mia or a Letty?
I am straight up Letty. I just want to kick some bitches in the teeth. I think Mia is a little too passive, and I don't think it's a thing about agency, because when she was given the opportunity, she took the wheel of life, and she gripped the clutch of destiny. But I feel like, at the same time, Letty's a lot of her not a fighter, but she'll crack your teeth.
Yeah, Letty's pretty badass. I'm glad you guys finally got to meet Letty.
I mean, I don't even like Michelle Rodriguez characters as a rule. She usually rubs me the wrong way. She's probably my least favorite thing in Lost. She's probably my least favorite thing in Resident Evil. I genuinely, connected with this character. Kevo's gonna gasp, but, Kiram Nerisi, kind of, I really connected with this woman in
not
a
surprised.
really, dramatic way. I really liked her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
That's good. That's important because she is part of the lifeblood of this franchise. So I'm glad that you connected.
Straight the fuck up in. She's like Kitty Pryde for a new generation. I'm there.
Kate Pride, thank you so very much.
Oh.
I will respect you to respect her new name.
Dude, you've never been hotter.
Keva, who are you, Mia or Letty?
I don't want to answer because the real reason that Nico loves Letty so much is I'm a Letty, and so I don't like that about myself. And even though I said I'm a Dom, it's because I want to be a Dom, but it actually is that I'm a Brian, and I don't want to talk about it.
Oh.
So you're a begrudging Brian and a begrudging Letty.
I'm what I imagine Brian is going to eventually become, and this was us just watching the pilot. I'm fully aware, because we are coming at this almost 20
you
years
just said
later.
that. Let's not skip over this. What do you think Brian becomes? I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I mean, he's got all the groundwork for a Hemingway hero, the classic broken man structure rendered impotent by his white masculinity in a world seeking to advance past such two-dimensional notions.
Yeah, huge parts of that. I'm trying to think of this of two minds, both 15-year-old Kevo, who existed when this movie came out, and the fact that it's almost 20 years later, so I know a ton of stuff about these movies. Toward the end of this movie, Nico was saying, I can't believe there's only 10 minutes left. And I'm like, because the story of this movie is just... He's a cop. He sort of turns on cops by the end of this movie. But because we know there's so much more story to come of him, Nico didn't,
Yeah, if you had just told me that this was the plot of Pitch Perfect if all they sang was Shut Up and Drive.
Bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away. Fire away.
But I know there's so much more character development to come for all of these people, for as much as there even was in this film already.
Especially knowing how many of these characters get added later on. I did not see so many actors that I know these actors are going to have scenes with. A lot of these characters' journeys can't have even begun yet.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're very, very, very true.
Very right. You're very right.
The only other question for this movie is the one that you answered on the tune-up, or the tuna-up, to use your word, Nico, was about the food all over the place. And I don't know if you guys caught it in the throwaway, but in this movie, when Vince comes into the kitchen as Brian and Mia are doing the dishes, and he slams the microwave, and he's taunting Brian, and then Mia asks him about the restaurant so that Brian can take her there.
Yeah.
She says in that line, the
That
little,
Cuban
the
restaurant
little candles,
with,
the wood tables.
Okay, first of all, as a Cuban who has had picadillo at least once a week his entire fucking life, Jordana Brewster saying picadillo was a tortilla in
she's
my
Italian.
soul. Okay, but you know what? I have watched enough Master Chef to have heard Joe and Lydia Bastianich.
It was 2001. Let them do
Oh
their
my
bit.
God!
Let
just
them do their bit.
Fine, but yeah, I did catch that. I did catch that line, and you know what? I think I quite literally said, "No, it reminds me of being Cuban. It's food all over the place."
You really have to tone your brain down sometimes back to 2001 as like we start out, because you're like, oh yeah, like there wasn't Food Network where you would like know how to say words and stuff.
I was more focused on the line, make your own goddamn popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah, that was
very good.
shut up when I'm talking to you levels of screamed, and I loved it.
So cucky.
Yeah.
So cucky.
Okay, so now to kick off the conversation, because basically the way that these episodes are going to work, and I wonder if you guys are going to have a problem with this. That is a joke of saying you guys can just, you have your own podcast, you can just, we don't even need to be here. But the way that these are going to work is you're just going to talk about the movies however you want to talk about them, because this is now
If
the
you have
seventh time.
questions,
Yes.
if you want to talk about like certain things, characters you liked, anything you want.
Because this is now the seventh time we're talking about these movies, and so like we kind of, not we're running out of things to say because I do have new notes, but like this is your boat to lead.
Oh, he's like rolling back his shoulders and like rolling his neck and getting himself ready. What
I
have
would
you
expect
done?
nothing less.
You've woken
But
up a
first-
monster.
So just to start, did you guys like the movie?
Well, before we even get there,
What?
I guess we could. I mean, because we have the two kickoff questions. Joe, do you want to do
Okay.
overall thoughts first? Or you want to do the kickoff questions?
I think overall thoughts first.
Okay.
Like, did you like the movie?
Yeah. What did you guys think of this movie? Did you like it? Are you excited for the lap?
Are you like regretting this immediately? Like, oh fuck, I signed up for 9 more of these. This is gonna be horrible.
No.
Not remotely. Okay, so I'm a big fan of horror. I am super duper fulfilled by the Conjuring verse. It is just absolutely one of my favorite things, and I don't think any one of those movies deserves better than a B. At
Okay.
best, you could give The Conjuring 2 a B plus if you cut like 20 minutes from the middle, but no Conjuring movie deserves better than a B. But that universe deserves an A plus. I find myself eager to get back to the narrative of that world, even if I'm not as big a fan of what I'm watching. I'm a fan of what it makes me think about. Even if
Okay.
I thought this movie was like a 6.5 out of 10, what I got from it, I give like a 9.
Ooh, okay. I like that. That's cool. So you're excited about the Fastiverse itself. Like you want to get deeper in it.
Yes, and when I explain to you why, I think you'll really resonate with the frequency I'm putting out.
Okay.
Toot
go ahead.
toot.
Kick
And
it.
Kevo, what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm excited to see what comes from it. We've been watching a lot of Melrose Place lately, which is a fascinating period piece, considering it's almost 30 years old right by now. This sort of reminds me a lot of that in a lot of ways, in terms of thinking about this being the year 2000 when they opened on that shot of that shipment of combo TV VCRs. I was like, oh
yeah.
yes. Oh yes, I remember the days. I'm thinking about things like that, and he can find anyone on the web. Yeah, that was a thing that seemed intimidating back in the year 2001.
This is so cool that you say this, because we always say, I think that nostalgia plays a big role in it, and like where people list it when they talk about it, right? And for you to not have the nostalgia of seeing it before, but have the nostalgia of the time, is going to be an important factor for how much you liked this film.
It's something that I try to get enjoyment out of when we have to power through these ancient pieces of media for different shows. You know, there's always at least historical value in considering this was many times the best they could do, at least on a budget.
Yeah.
I'm currently rewatching X-Files with two friends, remotely, and we're like all watching basically on the same nights or whatever, and we're working through season 1. I know you guys both like that show, and I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And there's a lot of episodes in season 1 where I'm like, oh, this isn't very good. Like, you kind of have to just power through. Like, you just have to be like, different time. They're still figuring the show out. Like, it's weird to work your way through old media, but knowing that the payoff will eventually come.
Well, part of it that hurts that show in particular is that the episodes are like fucking 49 minutes at first.
Yeah.
It's this sense of drawn out atmosphere, and that's actually the opposite of Fast and the Furious, and that was one of the things that I literally was confused. Like, I kept being like, is this the second? No, because one of them's not in the second. But then it can't be the third one because there's no Bow Wow. Is that Ja Rule? Doesn't he have a fire festival to ruin? Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So then, could this be the fourth one? I don't think it's the fourth one because, well, let's face it, this HD looks a little bit like it was done with a camcorder. Okay, this has to be the first one. It's just starting.
All of this
Yeah.
to say, it was very fast-paced in terms of plot.
Yeah.
I like to take
Yeah.
timestamps while we're watching just to keep track of pacing of story, and I was surprised at how quickly everything was happening. Like, in a positive way. It really kept me engaged.
Well, they get slower.
Yeah, so the first 4 movies,
But I imagine the cars get faster.
but also there's a line in a future movie. This time, it's not just about being fast. So wait for that. Get ready for that, because that is coming. That is a line in, I think,
Well, it's
7?
also about being furious.
Yes,
It
but
is.
also in the... Yes. You're right. I'm not going to spoil any more. You are correct.
I didn't mean to squeak there, but I like it.
But, okay, so the first 4 movies, the movies made between 2001 and 2009, are all like an hour 45. And for the most part, they all have a really good pace to them. And then Fast 5 comes, which is the first one that I saw, and from there on, they're all like 2:15 or longer. It's just like modern action movie. It's like they're everything, right? And so
Yeah.
these movies move at a pace. I'm glad you guys noticed it. I mean, it makes sense that you would because you watch enough stuff to know that this flies. And what's really nice about us doing it in chronological order and taking Tokyo Drift and putting it after 6, that is a shorter, quicker movie that like breaks up the longer, not necessarily slower, but kind of slower movies. It's just like a different
Yes.
feel, and it feels like this like literal, Nas boost in the middle where it's just like, oh, this is like hyper fast, just a shorter movie, like a breath of fresh air kind of.
It'll also help to draw a stronger comparison between the two different eras, probably.
Yes, for
Yes.
sure. Absolutely.
Yes.
Especially since, like, there's a lot of tech on display in Tokyo Drift, and it's like, oh, this is way outdated. Like, if this is supposed to happen after 6, it's like, oh, okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
And in Tokyo, of all places, too.
2 laps ago, we had on the Driving School lap, we had host of the Wistful Thinking podcast, also on this network. We had Cara Gayla Regan on, and she did the entire thing, like just like what you guys are doing. She had never seen a single movie. She watched all the movies with us for the first time. That lap was the Brian O'Connor lap. We were doing Paul Walker movies in our off weeks. We were focusing on Brian. Thank God that's over. Not that we don't love Brian, but like a lot of the Paul Walker movies, not necessarily
good.
great. So this lap, but in that lap, while we were doing these episodes with Kara, she came up with a theme song called That's So Brian, doo-doo-doo-doo. We talked about in each movie what the most Brian moment of the movie was. Even if Paul Walker's not in the movie, we still picked out a character, we still picked out a moment that pointed to what is the thing in this movie that is most emblematic of the Paul Walker, the Brian O'Connor character in that movie. Even a movie that Brian's in, it could be another character doing a Brian thing. So this lap, one of our kickoff questions, because it has to be, is That's So Letty, doo-doo-doo-doo. What is, in your opinion, it doesn't have to necessarily be a Michelle Rodriguez moment, but I would imagine having seen this and only seen these characters in this context, it would be her. But if you had to pick, what is the most Letty moment? The thing that in your head is like, oh shit, like that is like her essence. That is the character at her core. What's the most Letty moment of this first movie?
I have to give my slight revision on the moment, and then it is the most Letty moment. That moment where the guy is like, if I win, I'll get your ass. And she was, I don't like how I did that. Please, for the love of God, save me from myself.
No. But I will say that character is named Rasta Racer. So you were only as uncomfortable with it as the screenwriters were. So you are okay in this moment.
It was specifically that he was a racial stereotype. She was immediately like, you can't have my ass. Then she beats him. And it's so fucking hot.
Yep.
I just wish she had said, okay, if I win, I get your ass.
Oh, I like that.
I just wish she was immediately like, I'm going to peg you. Are you still confident in your masculinity, knowing you could be asked to pay what you are demanding first?
Love that.
And I feel like that minor change on Letty, I will explain to you how she has the power of the Shorty Shift when we get there.
So that's a very good moment. Kevo, what about you? What is the most, in your eyes, what's the most Letty moment? Not knowing where she goes over the course of these 9 movies and the short films, what do you think is the most Letty moment in this movie?
No, I don't know. I don't think I can top that one, so to speak.
Okay. Do you have another one? Do you have one that's also another great Letty moment, at least? If you need time to think about it, Joe and I can give ours.
The most Letty moment in the first one is sniff, sniff, I smell skanks.
Right, that's
like,
definitely up there.
To me, that's like you get all of Letty and one shot of dialogue. Like that's it. You she's badass. Like the girls like kind of run. Like she just commands the room when she comes in. So
Her entrance, to use a Brian Rodriguez term, is iconic. That is the art for this episode, where she just pulls up and she's got like the low slung camo pants and
oh
like
yeah,
you can see her thong. I guess that was the style in 2001. And she's
was.
got that red, the crop top or the tank top or whatever, and she just looks like tough and badass and like in her car. Like that's great. I think the Skanks line is great. Nico's scene was great. But the other one that I will say, in a very Letty moment, is when she tells Dom, "You're going upstairs and giving me a back massage." It's like, yeah, that's pretty Letty.
Yeah, you're right, because it shows that she's like, she also has reign over Dom, and nobody has reign over Dom, right?
Mrs.
So, like,
Alpha, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just steal Kevo's and have a second one?
Go for it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that helped make the characters defined is that I felt like they each had a unique driving style. Letty going under the truck is something I don't think the guys would have done because it implies something diminutive, smaller than another creature. And that she used that to her advantage is also very Letty.
I
love
like
that.
the idea of thinking that. So for me, when I would see that, I would think that like it's so technical that only a woman's brain could handle this level of maneuver, and that she's the most finesse one. But I didn't get the underneath part. Yeah, that makes sense too, though. I like both of them.
Yeah, she's willing to do something no one else would because they wouldn't put themselves in a diminutive position.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I like that.
Now, we have another question. I'm wondering, Joe, if we save this other question for later in the lab, because it kind of spoils
Then
a
don't
future
spoil
plot
anything.
twist. You know what I mean? It was your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
I
I
think
know
we're
what you're
hold off
saying.
on this. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
just That's So Letty is a good idea. So, okay. So now we are into the episode. We're into the movie. We've talked a little bit about Letty, but what do you guys love? What was some of your favorite moments, problematic moments, things that you didn't like, things
Anything
that
you
you're
have
worried
questions about?
Anything you want to talk about. The floor is both of yours. Take it away, Fast and the Furious.
Well, way fewer problematic instances than I had been fearing, especially for
I
2001.
was nervous.
Yeah.
I was nervous because when you said it on the getting an estimate, I was like, this one has a very problematic moment. that
Like
we just-
6 minutes in, there's a real
6
hard
minutes
F.
in,
But
it's
he's
rough.
a bad guy, so like
Yes.
it's fine. And
He's even the baddest of the good guys.
and I'll be honest,
Yes.
the film was bordering on the decent side of homophobic, with like a little bit of even homoeroticism in the staring between
Lots of
Brian and
homoeroticism.
Dom, and
Oh,
like the
yes.
little crony guys calling him pretty. It doesn't seem as taunting as much as it does like genuine.
It seems a little bit more like
Ooh.
if I could we make a Haze Him video together?
A little bit. So, like, the faggot came out of nowhere, and it was from a person who we're supposed to get the impression that he's a bad guy. Watching this movie, I really got the strong impression that Dom is aware that Vince is toxic for the family, and kind of sees Brian as a way to edge Vince out. And that's part of why Dom doesn't even notice all of the red flags about Brian, because he's just focused on getting either Vince is going to get put in his place and stop being such a dick, or he'll leave. And Brian seems like a nice guy, and we'll replace our really seedy, toxic white guy with a really nice, clean one.
Wow, that's an interesting theory.
I have a slightly different theory on why no one
for it.
notices. Brian.
Yours is magic, mine is genuine.
Well, yes, Kevo's makes sense, but hear me out. Before this movie,
If that's not like the ultimate definition of like what I imagine is your relationship and your podcast, like Kevo's like, here's all the facts and evidence, and Nico's like, yes, but here's magic.
so, okay, going into this, I was nervous that not knowing anything about the franchise, like, I wouldn't catch up. Like, not like that there's a learning curve, but fandom loves fandom things. Fandom doesn't love surface things. And I was
Okay.
really afraid that I wouldn't connect with what it is that makes Fast and Furious so fast and so furious. Within 20 minutes, I was relieved that they established which one was Fast and which one was the Furious. And
Yes.
that made life a little bit easier. And I realized that the movie is about a mystical ability called the Fast Furious Force. And it allows one of them to go very fast. And it allows one of them to become very furious. And Brian can go very fast. And Dom has to hold back his very furious. And the problem is, somehow Dom has gotten his hand on the clutch of destiny. He's not meant to use it. He's too furious. He'll blow it. But Brian has the speed. He has the fast force. Brian could use it. But there's other powers because you see it's a mystical force, you understand. So it instigates others to anger quickly because they become jealous of its glow because of the headlights. It confuses other people so they like don't realize that you're a fucking undercover cop despite all of this. I mean, he might as well have been like, guys, can you hold my badge for me?
Yes.
So I guess is that a way of saying that you were not surprised by that reveal?
Not remotely. Well, it didn't help that the plot of the film is described as undercover cop Paul Walker. But other than that,
I think what's interesting about that dynamic is that, like, and to sort of spin before we get back, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to interrupt, is that, like, with Kevo's perspective on, like, the whole Vince-Brian relationship and Dom intertwining is that, like, we only see Vince as the bad guy. I mean, he is toxic masculinity. He is an aggressive, angry dude that has to would probably benefit from some therapy or years of therapy. We only see him as the bad guy and Brian as the good guy because we're seeing the movie through Brian's perspective. But like in this world, they had a thing working. Like their family was successful. They were robbing trucks. They had this restaurant. They had this family. They had this group. And then Brian comes in, the outsider, looking to take Dom down. And so he's really the bad guy, right? Like it's a weird thing that the movie does in the perspective.
no. Well, I also have a thing for that. Kevo has logic, but
Vince was very clearly always toxic, always causing trouble. I am going to use the gif of Dom saying, "You embarrass me," as a reaction gif 1,000,000 times over. Clearly, Vince was a problem in this family, and if it wasn't Brian, it was going to be something else. Mia is the first one to be like, he's causing trouble again. You need to dump his ass then, Mia, but that's a different issue. That's separate. I don't think that Vince, I think he was probably causing trouble for the family, independent of Brian's existence.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
I think Vince was just always jealous that
Of
he
the
didn't
Fury.
have the fast or furious force, and that's why he was always like a little cuck ass about it.
I'm not convinced they knew there was a fast force. I don't know exactly how this mythos works. I just know he was jealous of the furious force.
Well, true, yes. Yeah. Well, so then there's a few other special abilities, right? Number one, it is important to note that Letty has the Shorty Shift. She has the ability to make geometric shifts no one else can by sheer virtue of balls.
Does Mia have powers?
Mia does!
Oh.
Mia has the heart of the race.
The heart of the race.
Oh my god!
She embodies the spirit created by Paula Abdul in Rush Rush.
Oh boy.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
It's all falling into place.
She has
It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, she has the ability to make engines come to life with the spark of ignition.
So now, Joe, what I love about this is that Nico and Kevo have no idea that Wes has coined the term automancer in a D&D parlance. That
I know.
These characters
Yes.
are automancers.
Yes.
Our listeners written in with this idea that they are automancers, that the more they touch cars, the more they level up
Or
and
the more they
power
touch
up.
anything, the more they're around anything, the more they draw from its abilities.
Because as you can imagine from like modern day action tropes, as the movies go on, they all basically become superheroes. But I like that you are basically lending credence and definition and shape to this theory in a way by just saying all these different wonderful ideas.
And I would like all of your listeners to know that he doesn't have notes in front of him. He's doing all of this off the top of his head.
That
Oh,
doesn't
even
surprise
better.
me even a little bit.
I'm sure he's been thinking about this
All
for the
day.
last, 4 hours.
All fucking day. Yep.
But he's not reading off of cue cards or anything. This is all just what it's like.
And if I can, here's why they were able to defeat Tran. So Tran sacrificed some of his car power in terms of protection to be able to ride on that little motobike.
But he's so hot, though.
Oh my god, he is illogically hot
my
to the point where I just don't
God.
understand.
Oh.
So fucking hot, everyone else should just get the fuck out of the movie. It's so dumb. But anyway, he sacrificed some of his power in terms of protection to be able to go faster and sleeker, and he gained the powers of the motocross. That is ultimately what defeated him. He gave up his protection for speed.
How does Jesse's dad's Volkswagen Jetta with the Jazz Solo Cup design on it factor into all of this?
Well-
because that's one of my favorite things from this movie.
So Jesse comes from, and I mean this, Jesse comes from a legacy family of auto magic.
sure.
Okay.
He comes from an older form, like he comes from like the Corvette Force or something. His car's family's magic has faded, Because the whole point of this is family. His car's family's magic has faded. He's carrying on that legacy, and he is the last vestiges of it in this ridiculous-looking car, and that's why it looks like fucking Speed Racer. Because this is like if Speed Racer came to hang out with the fucking Autobots.
This movie was almost named Racer X.
I can't deal with this.
Frankie Muniz owned Jesse's car for like forever. Like he bought the Jetta and like had it like all like right after he was doing, like he bought it when he turned 16.
That makes
Like,
so
when he was
much
doing
sense.
Malcolm in the
That's so cute.
That's Jesse's power, and then that's why Jesse's death is a catalyst, because now that energy has been released and it supercharges the Furious Force. Like, I mean, I really thought about this
It
shit.
set off the Fast Saga, the
Yeah.
death of Jesse.
It like actually triggered a massive shift in the
love
Fast
it.
Furious Force.
To combine the Fast and the Furious for
Yeah.
the first time in
love it.
eons.
Which is why
Wow.
when Jesse is dying, that's part of why Mia like is like, no, we have to take, and that's why she's able to take care of the car and drive the car while Brian is trying to rescue Vince, because she has the power to interface with the car.
So what you're saying is that Jesse is like the
crux.
Thanos of this world. Like he's the catalyst. He set everything in motion.
I am positive I am calling him the half sack.
The sacrificial lamb.
Okay.
So half sack, yeah.
I am absolutely calling him half sack, yes.
So Jesse in this universe is the Chris Malika of the Westworld universe.
That's
Be a
what I was
guest.
thinking.
Have you guys seen? Are you familiar with Westworld?
No,
No.
but I was trying to push, I was comparing him to Sons of Anarchy's half sack.
He's Rue from the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
He's the chubby kid from the Maze Runner movies. There's
He's-
always one.
He's whatever kid dies in one of the halves of it. Someone's got to
Okay.
die.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, the guy, and then the people.
The metaphor kind of breaks down a little bit, but I do appreciate that. But this guy that was on our podcast, in Westworld, as you know, like there's like this world of robots, and they are just subservient to man, and men can go there and like have sex with who they want and shoot what they want and do what they want, live up their fantasy. And then like very early in the series, shit breaks bad, the robots overtake the world. This guy that we had on our show, Chris Malika, who was great, his episode was a lot of fun. He basically, his actions
character.
turn Evan Rachel Wood's character so, like, they basically break her, and she then goes on a rampage and, like, kind of leads the overturn. So he is, in that universe, the Jesse of this universe, that his
Yeah, the
actions,
crux.
his whatever, have inspired everything to come from it. It's the blossoming, it's the blooming of all of that.
Okay, I follow it. Yes, his death is the moment that you understand everything's in motion.
But then Jesse
Yeah.
is the Evan Rachel Wood, and trans assassins are that guy who did bad things to her.
I appreciate you following along the metaphor for a show that you don't really know and a guest that you don't know, so I appreciate it.
I ask so many people to go on such weird journeys. I am always down for a good trek as long as you're my Sherpa.
Cool. Wonderful.
Oh, now I
We
remember what I
have-
wanted to ask. Did Vince die?
Go for
I
it.
don't remember.
Who?
Vince?
Vince.
Did he
Vince
die?
does not die.
Okay.
The only person that dies
How?
is Jesse.
Well, Jesse and Johnny Tran die.
I at least hope Vince's arm is like permanently fucked up and he can never drive again.
That was intense for him to come back from.
I just don't think
No
he needs that
spoilers,
arm
but-
anymore. Like, oh my god.
Okay, just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
keep that in the
just
back of your head.
keep that in mind for sure.
He's this franchise's Bucky Barnes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, dangled the arm. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, always jealous of someone better than him.
Rude about women. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to come up with a Winter Soldier pun for cars, and I'm coming up empty.
I was not prepared for the story about Dom's dad having burned alive. That was sudden and disturbing. That's
But
a backstory.
It was his secret origin. It was his Batman gun down at the theater shit.
Yeah.
Great comparison. I like that too. And it comes out of like nowhere. Like they're just working on the car. He just takes Brian, like, come with me for a minute, and then tells him the story in front of the car. Like he couldn't have told him outside or something. But
The car needed to be there for moral support.
Yeah. So in this metaphor is either the fire or the wall. I guess is Joe Chill, who kills Batman's parents.
I think what I'm suggesting then is the wall is Joe Chill.
Yes.
And the fire is the gun.
Perfect.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, but now here's where things got a little bit murky for me. Okay,
Okay.
that's not how polices work.
In any sense of it, right?
I mean, I'm not even talking about the kind of responsible, respectful policing that we're looking for from our government. I am talking about, like, that's not how police works. This was some, like, Inspector Clouseau, Car 54, where are you? Whatever the fucking opposite of Dragnet is.
We have a question. We were asking it before, and I think we can ask it now. In this movie, do you think Brian is a good cop or a bad cop?
No, I'm going to ask that in 4. Think about that. Don't answer that yet. I have that
But
assigned
just-
for movie 4.
Well, can
is
I-
Brian?
Let me ask you
like,
a question.
even now.
Please
What?
specify if you mean, is he a corrupt or good cop slash...
is he good at his job or is he not good at his job?
That's even, okay. Before you explained that we were going to get asked what's the lettiest thing, when I was being asked what's the Brianest thing...
Yeah, I was excited for that question.
Yeah, because I can
Tell
already
us.
tell you, it's
Say
every
it.
fucking stupid, self-sacrificial, over-the-top, there's got to be a better way to do it, but he's going to kill himself to get it done. Fucking stupid action stunt he does all movie.
Yeah, I was going to say the most Brian thing that Brian does is the last thing he does, which is giving a fugitive his car and then just sort of walking away, not thinking about what the consequences of that might be. It's the ultimate moment of so many things leading up to it that are so very Brian.
Yeah.
So there's this thing, right? It's this super duper Roman Catholic thing, and, you know, the kind of like guilt that it takes like a religion to instill. The only way that you can truly be happy is by making other people happy, but it's even better when it comes at the cost of your own organic happiness. Right? Sort of this programmed sense of things, like almost like imagine if you were in a world where teeth meant everything and every time you lost a tooth you died a little bit. The Easter Bunny would be really sinister in that world.
Easter Bunny.
Oh my god, I meant the Tooth
Fairy.
Fairy. The Tooth Fairy would be really sinister in that world. Brian wants to do the right thing, but so frequently what Brian does is the dumbest thing that
Yeah.
he thinks will lead to somebody else's happiness. If your friend has 4 things in their hand and they're about to drop one of them, what should you do? Should you A, go up to them and rip everything out of their hand because it's your job to be in control of the world?
The Thing.
Or B, should you ask them how you can fucking help? Brian can't figure out how to ask how to help. Brian has to take all 4 things out of your hands without asking you, not realizing that sometimes, you feeble fumbling doofus, you're the reason everything's gonna fall.
Is that an answer that's saying that he's not good at his job? Is that what you're getting at?
No, actually, I think he's a terrible cop, but he's an excellent car thief.
Okay.
Okay. So now I was saying, I don't know if you guys, are you familiar, have you seen the movie Point Break?
I have seen it on WPIX at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, yes.
Best way to watch it.
This movie essentially is that movie. Like, it is the same thing where Keanu is tasked to bring down Patrick Swayze, and then in the end, even though he falls in love with Lori Petty, he really, truly falls in love with Patrick Swayze, and then at the end, spoiler, but we've talked about it on here before, he lets him go because it's the greatest love of all is that between the two men. Like here, Brian and Mia have a thing, but it's really, as you pointed out, it's the Brian and Dom homoeroticism. That's the true love story of not only this movie, but the franchise.
So, real quick, I actually misunderstood the title Point Break. When I was a kid, I thought it was like Mount Everest. Point Break.
Oh.
So I kept wondering when they were going to go to the mountain.
In Point Break, she's working at the same shrimp restaurant that they go to in this restaurant too.
Neptune's Net out in
Yeah.
California on the PCH.
Yeah, so they even like kind of mirror some of the sets too.
That's also the same restaurant where Tony Stark has an anxiety
Yep.
attack in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
100%. Yep.
It does feel like, and as far as I know, it's not in Veronica Mars, but it feels like it could be a very Veronica Mars.
I feel like it should
type
be,
location.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's her and Weevil out there, and they're just, having like a conversation that should not be in public, but is in public for some reason. Feels like that kind of spot.
The other thing I really need to comment on with this film, it really kind of felt like a well-intentioned music video at times. I was dazzled when it wasn't directed by Mick G. The performances were really genuine, right? So I'm not knocking any of the performances, and I imagine, was this like an early Rob Cohen film? Was this a later Rob Cohen film?
I don't know. He had just come off doing, or a couple years before, he had done The Skulls with Paul Walker. So like he was familiar with Paul Walker. He had made movies before.
My issue was it very frequently felt a little bit directed, almost like stylistically. There were choices that I felt we jumped in and out of. So some of the sci-fi motif that was achieved with the CGI transitions that I actually think
like through the engines and stuff.
The Fast Furious Force activating. Those were really interesting stylistic choices to only have 3 times. The slow-mo in the jump was so dumb. There were so many weird choices that if they had been a consistent motif throughout the film, if they had been a genre element that helped create an atmosphere, they would have been choices I could have been on board with, but so many of them felt like, guys, check it out. I just found out how I can do this with my editing software.
Get ready for that, because that does not really go away. Like, it changes, but that's like a kind of a core element to a lot of it. Like, what kind of weird, cool shit can we show you in an engine?
It just seemed as though there were times they didn't really correlate the directing to the writing. And I don't mean that like, it's definitely not the kindest criticism, but I don't mean it sinisterly or humorously even. There were times where, like, they were trying to say, you need to be more quiet. Please repeat that more quietly. Paul Walker speaks at the exact same volume. And it felt in no way like someone was directing that scene. One of my notes was, oh, okay, everything's happening because no one is directing this. I really loved the atmosphere of everybody hanging out at the underground car rally.
Race wars. Get
Race
it right.
wars.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
no,
race
I
wars.
refuse to use the term race wars in reference to anything right now.
I'm so glad that was not ultimately the name of this movie.
And now it would have some real Lady Antebellum problems. That sequence where Brian explains that he is an undercover cop to Mia, which he does very loudly in full audio of people that I am willing to bet have guns. That sequence is done so indelicately in a way that expressed to me all of the subtlety of a bonfire during an episode of The OC. There was nothing that indicated that they understood that this was the climactic apex of the film. It was directed with an intimacy that didn't befit the immensity of the moment, because it also didn't have the intimacy of a lover revealing betrayal. It had the intimacy of a Tom Clancy novel. While the direction was interesting and very visual, which I appreciated, it didn't necessarily sync up to the story the way I expected it to, for the sake of a narrative flowing as one story.
Well, I think, and my point to that is I do not disagree with any of that.
No,
but I will
I don't
say
either.
I think the core emotional story here is Brian and Dom, and when Dom learns that Brian's a cop, that's a much more of a narrative gut punch. Even though Mia knows and we know that they know, at the very end when Brian calls the police to get medical
He
attention
gives
for
his
Vince,
badge number. Yeah.
like that's when Dom's like fury and fear
By
and
far the best
betrayal-
performed moment in the movie.
I thought he was going to kill him with the way the
yeah.
music was swelling and the way it
Yep.
was directed.
That's the emotional gut punch I think you wanted in the Mia scene, but I think that is kind of proof that like the Mia Brian romance is at
Secondary.
best second fiddle, to
Yeah.
Brian and Dom.
Yeah, but directed well enough to dazzle me.
I feel like they made a specific narrative choice because I was doing my timestamp check thing. The chase sequence is almost exactly 10 minutes long from when he tells Mia that he's a cop to when everything slows down and we think Vince is dying and Dom finds out that he's a cop. So I feel like there might have been an effort as well to give us one half of that reveal at the beginning of the chase and then one half at the end so that we don't need to start digesting it until after the whole chase happens. But it does help elevate the excitement of the narrative, and it leaves us wondering how much Mia is going to help Brian when she knows that he has been keeping this secret from them.
Very good points. Very well said. You mentioned just now in the directing of the scene and the way that things come together, you mentioned the music, and obviously we have talked about on here before that you have made, that Nico, you made our theme song, but you're also a lifelong lover and fan and supporter and, dare I say, stan of BT, who did the score for this movie. And you were saying to me, like, it's weird to enter a movie knowing the entire score without having seen the movie. And, like, I just want to know, because please just talk about the beat, because I feel like we have not, like, there are scenes where it's like, or there are movies in this franchise, especially Tokyo
we
Drift,
talked
where, like,
about the soundtracks. For
yeah, like
sure.
the soundtrack is great. The soundtrack in this is very 2001 and very great and cool and weird, but like we have not really paid a lot of attention, I don't think, to the score because like I don't have the musical vocabulary to really talk about it, and I think it's effective and it's memorable, but like I really like you to talk about, your relationship with BT, but also like what the score maybe means to you or like how it worked in the movie or just all
Did you
of that
like
sort
it?
of stuff.
Did you not like it? Yeah.
So I was super obsessed with this score growing up. There once was a woman named Myra Ellen Amos. And Myra Ellen Amos discovered
how does
the
Tori
piano.
Amos in this goddamn podcast too? How does this happen every single time?
Oh, I can even get to Janet. Don't worry.
My life.
So Myra Ellen Amos, after she changed her name to Tori Amos and became an international chanteuse, made it her life's mission to make sure that other artists had the same opportunities she did. She discovered this little-known guy, BT, and he asked her to sing on this song, Blue Skies. And Blue Skies remains one of the most un-Tori Amos songs that every Tori Amos fan thinks is like the pinnacle height of her quality. Now, Blue Skies is included on BT's debut album, Ima. Ima is a really divisive album. A lot of people hear the brilliance that BT would come to, but it really feels a lot like 20-second songs expanded on for about 6 minutes apiece. His second album, Electric Sky Church Music, was much better received, but it was his breakthrough record, Movements in Still Life, that really launched him to cultural recognition. He's known for having a song with the lead singer of Soul Coughing, Mike Doughty. BT's success with Movements in Still Life would lead him to working with Britney Spears and NSYNC in the same year. He would go on to write for absolutely everybody. But the thing is, BT was more a composer than a pop songwriter, and BT's best work were really compositions over pop medleys. He'd always worked on symphonics and on, these big expansive soundscapes. As a matter of fact, something that a lot of people don't realize is BT has written something like 40 hours of music for Shanghai Disneyland. He's written the score to a number of films: Stealth with Jamie Foxx, Monster with Charlize Theron.
Which Stealth was also directed by Rob Cohen.
Oh, wow.
There you go, little fast action.
He did this score. Now, this score was the first time he was really expected to get any kind of buzz award show-wise. The Fast and the Furious production team believed so much in BT's score that they submitted it for the Oscar. I actually have one of the Oscar screeners. I got it off eBay.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
high
very
school.
cool. See, the score, yeah, that's very cool.
They're shitty CDRs, but, I have it. And a number of these songs. Now, I've mentioned that BT is prolific, and if you take a look at his music database, the man is truly composed something like, 10,000 hours of music. He is such a prolific creator. When he does an album, he usually does upwards of 8 versions of it, with countless versions of each song. It is notable that something like 5 to 8 works in this score exist outside of this film in one form or another as another song. As a matter of fact, Nocturnal Transmission was originally like a piece of music that was like sending a message through the night. Not only was I familiar with this score, I had associations for these songs that predate the score.
When I saw Suspiria, the only thing that I'm even remotely in the same world as you on this is that when I saw Suspiria, they had put out the score by Tom York of Radiohead. He had put it out before, and I listened to it because I obviously love it. Like, Radiohead's my favorite band, and I love the score, and then, hearing it in the movie and, how it worked, I was like, this is so weird. It's a very bizarre thing to have, your own conceptions of, what it could be or should be, and then to hear it with visuals, it's like, oh, wow.
Well, before I ever saw The Hours with Nicole Kidman, I had listened to the score by Philip Glass because, I'm far as, white passing obnoxious musical theater gays go, I guess I'm a decent-sized Philip Glass fan, I guess. And so it was a work that I wanted to interact with, and I don't think I've still ever seen The Hours all the way through. I probably couldn't tell you the difference between that and the others, but I sure do have the score.
I know they're both Nicole Kidman. That's about as far as I know. That's all I got.
Yeah, same.
The only Philip Glass song I know is that song from Koyana Scotsy. I'm sure maybe used other places, but Koyana Scotsy, Pruitt Ego? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
That's a wildly famous song, I think, right? I
Yes.
think? Okay. We have a couple games to play, but before we get to the games, I want to see, because obviously we're going to have you on for the next 8 episodes, next 8 main installments. There's plenty of time to talk about these movies. But is there anything else about this movie in particular that you want to talk about? And then I would also like to get your sense of, what you think the next movie is going to be about. Because I think we asked Kara.
That's what I want to do, too. That's what I want to do, too.
Very interesting.
Yes.
But is there anything about this movie that you're curious about, or that you want to know, or that you want to talk about? Anything like that? Any sort of last thoughts on the Fast and the Furious?
No, I just expect more speed and more fury.
You're going to get that. That I can promise, and that's not even a spoiler. I promise you'll get more speed and more fury for sure.
The bad guys in this movie were kind of like Shredder and the Hand, only it was Tran and the wheel. The guy driving the semi, shooting the giant shotgun, might as well have just been like an automatic rifle built into a self-driving truck for all that he was a person.
Yeah, he's not a character at all.
Fuck the idea of bad guys in this movie because there really weren't. Beyond that, if I had waited through those credits, other than the fact that they were styled beautifully, if I had waited for that 2-second sequence, I would have pissed on the screen.
Probably because you would have been holding it.
I would have been holding it for an hour and 45 minutes in case Vin Diesel took his fucking shirt off, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love when you can see where he's bald. He's just so hot.
I also do
I
want
love
to
that you guys
say...
brought that up. We didn't mention that, but like, so one thing that we do pitch about these movies is that there's eye candy for everyone. That like, as much as like, you know, they have some misogynistic problems and like the agency of women in them and stuff like that, you get eye candy on both sides. There's a lot of hot dudes as much as there are beautiful women, right? So I'm glad that you guys keep bringing that up. That's awesome.
I would love to have an awkward, can't tell our families about it, 90s secret yuppie romance up in the West Village with Vin Diesel, where we're both high-powered attorneys who can't ever come out.
I'd watch it or something. I'm into it.
I do want to say this before we move on. In defense of all of Nico's, wild ranting and raving about the Fast Furious Force and the magical powers, there is something to be said for his theories, considering that spider sense moment that Brian and Dom share right before the hitmen show up and kill Jesse, that I still want. Genuinely, do we get an answer about that, or is that just a directorial choice?
It is startling to me every time. Like, it's never really repeated. It doesn't really make sense. Like, they can't really... Like, they just hear motorcycles.
But,
I'm telling you, it has to do with Jesse dying, activating the Fast Furious Force in a mystical way, because Jesse was about to die. There was this moment where, like, the universe... just like it was like a transpo jump.
I think Joey nails it. I think that what they're really saying is that they're such car guys that they hear the exhaust from the motorcycle so far away that they know it's out of place in their neighborhood. And I think that that's what it is, more than a spidey sense, but I'm not taking away from your magical Fast Furious theory.
And not even necessarily magic, but it's a very clear directorial choice where this narrative is going to shift, and I don't know how much the creator, director... had in mind for this to be a continuing narrative and a franchise and all of that, but it is definitely the point at which the narrative flips and you can tell which side Brian is going to choose.
And we can agree that like Nos is like dark magic steroids in this universe, right?
Oh yeah.
That whenever anybody's like, I'm not fast enough or furious enough to keep up with the daddies, I gotta Nos it.
I gotta take my kick.
Yeah.
100%.
So I have two quick things that I want to say. Number one, Joe, I think by the time we get to this movie again next lap, we will be done with the minute, I think. It's going to be close, because we're going to do the deleted scenes and stuff, whatever. We're going to sort of mix things up a bit. But like we're going to be just about at the end of this lap, we will have broken down this movie minute by minute. So basically, next lap is essentially going to kick off Too Fast, which is very exciting.
Cool.
Number one. And number two, one thing that I never really thought about the factor of it until we saw it in so many classic car movies, but at the end, when Brian is in pursuit of Johnny and Lance kind of go high-low on him on the hill as they're going after him. Like, there's like this sort of like where the cat becomes the mouse or whatever, right? And they go high-low, and I'm like, oh shit, we just saw that in like 6 classic car movies. Like the difference of height and stuff. So I was like, it's pretty cool.
He's gaining the high ground.
The high ground,
high ground. It's the Fast Force Fury Tower.
Next movie takes place in Miami. What do you think happens?
And how do you think they get there?
Spring break!
Okay,
spring break, okay. Do you have any theories?
I'm going to be honest.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think they get there by car.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I meant the more philosophical, how do we get there? But sure, car works. That's fair.
I'm pretty sure during this movie, Vin Diesel was making Triple X, which I mistakenly thought was one of these. I think it's just Paul Walker. I'm going to assume he scams on some co-eds in Miami. Oh, isn't that the one that... Oh, because my sweet lady, would you be my... Tyrese. Tyrese is in that one, I think, right? Because...
yes.
Tyrese, because he's so goddamn beautiful. Tyrese is in that one. He's the Dom in that one, I think. Either that, or I'm combining this with Fastlane, and I'm thinking of Bill Bellamy and Peter Facinelli, and I can't make any promises.
That's good. No, that's...
I've seen every episode of Fastlane. You guys want to talk about Fastlane? I love that show.
And I do love Peter Facinelli.
And Tiffany Amber Thiessen was on it after she ruined 90210, so, that's fair.
All right.
Look,
Okay.
I have no fucking patience for Valerie. She replaced my precious Brenda. I could have ripped her goddamn wig off and made her eat it. I was like, I was so beyond, like, at 10 years old, I was so broken because Brenda went away to Europe for her. She wouldn't leave Dylan!
Joey, here, are you muted or are you okay?
Oh, no, I just don't have words. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, same. Okay. Fair.
You gave him the floor.
I know. It is what it is. So, okay. We have 2 games to play, and we're going to play these every time you're on, so get ready for them. Buckle in, as it were. The first one up is called This Ain't No 10-Second Race, a.k.a. Boy Do We Have a Podcast for You. So now, the way this game works is that we are going to go on everyone's favorite website, twitter.com, and we are going to find tweets sent by anyone that would be interested in theory in listening to this podcast. So what we're going to do is I would like each of you to find a tweet on twitter.com and send it to @TooFastTooForever, and then you're going to read it on air.
Wait, you want me to dox someone?
No. Well, kind of. But what we're going to do is we're going to reply to them and just say, boy, do we have a podcast for you. #TooFastTooForever, #Fast and Furious, #2F2F, link to our show page. So the way it works is if the person you respond to likes the tweet, you get a point. If they retweet the tweet, you get 2 points. If they reply, you get 5. And if they email into the show, which has never happened, you get 10. But keep in mind, this is the most difficult game in the world you could
It's so
possibly
hard.
imagine. I don't know why it's so difficult, but it is wildly difficult. With all that said, Joe,
I
let
got
me
the first
review.
one.
Let me review what we did last time, which was, I guess, when was it? Episode 100? No, Hobbs and Shaw. Wait, what?
Okay.
When did we do that? That feels like forever ago.
It does.
So we had Garrett Smith on,
Yes.
Philadelphia. I found Julio 4 at Sewer Love that says Han and Bow Wow will return in Avengers Endgame. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. It was retweeted by Sewer Love. I get 2 points. I did not know that happened.
Nice.
I get 2 points, which is very, very exciting.
Very exciting.
So now I am, let's see here. Let's see the updated score. I am now at 22.5. Joe, you're at 25 right now, so I'm closing the gap. I hope you're ready. You found FA2 at fave_JUE quote tweeting a tweet that said, if 2020 was a movie, what would it be? They said Fast and Furious and Star Wars. You said, boy, do we have a podcast for you. It got a like, but it was from Brian Rodriguez, so it does not count.
Doesn't count. No.
And then our guest, Garrett Smith, found Trang Dong at Tranghan Dong on Twitter. If straight people can have like 20 Fast and Furious movies, then the gays should be allowed to have at least 10 more Mamma Mia movies. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing.
Well,
Makes sense.
I'll be honest, I expect that from somebody reposting something that they stole from several years ago.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
definitely
Nothing.
an ancient Tumblr post.
That's definitely some real bitter old faggot from a million years ago who has a master's in library sciences.
Now, Nico, I know that you're relatively new to Twitter. You're like newly engaged with Twitter, but Twitter is nothing but recycled jokes. Like, that's all it is. And jokes is like heavily in quotation marks. Like, Twitter is a cesspool.
I have to be honest, I am like really specific. Like, if I feel like my joke is too close to another joke, I don't make the joke.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd rather just take shots at myself. Am I doing this live?
Yes,
Yeah,
send
you
it,
have to find
yes.
one now. I'm going to read mine, so just find whatever one you want to use while we're waiting. Okay, mine is from Jake Landy. It's a reply. He's at Jake and Snakes. He's replying to Lauren A. Wheel. She says, I don't know what the noise outside is, but it's either someone street racing down Melrose at 9 p.m. or they built a freaking train outside my windows. I'm so confused. He says, Fast and Furious Melrose Place Drift sounds like a promising future for the franchise. And
No, oh
No,
my
you
god,
give
we
that one-
actually have a podcast for him! You give it to me!
That's what
You
I'm
give that to
saying.
Nico.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So, in honor of you guys being here and talking about Melrose Place, I think we have a podcast for him.
Boy,
Absolutely.
do
And
we.
just let that person know we stan Sydney real hard. Joe is the bomb shit. Jake, when he's not being a Boy Scout. Yeah, well, Joe's gone. Jake was great when he wasn't being a Boy Scout. So we're going to have our own. We are planning a Melrose Place podcast, actually. Like, we're working on making sure it's perfect. And we have the best name for it ever. The main character is Amanda Woodward, and she owns Melrose Place. So we're just going to call it Mandy Got House Problems.
Not Fast and Furious Melrose Place Drift?
Sadly, no, because while it blows up several times and drowns multiple people, well, I guess it only drowns one person, it never drifts anywhere.
There's a few drag races, so, for those episodes.
So now what you can do for future episodes, I didn't really want to spoil this for this. I could have told you, but I didn't want to tell you in advance. But now you can think about as you live your lives on Twitter.com, on the Bird app.
Yeah.
If you see a tweet, you can just keep it in your back pocket and then send it to me on here.
Or
and we
DM
can go
it
from
to
there.
us,
Yep.
something.
I like that you judge the word stan, but you're real cool with DM.
Well, I mean, DMs, I don't like any of it, honestly. Okay, here we go. Oh boy, there's so many good ones. There's 5 that I found from one. They're all old.
Yeah, mine was in 2018, so mine's very old.
Well, there's one from 2009 that I could do, but that's crazy.
Jesus. Okay.
I'm gonna go from one. Oh boy, hold on. I want to do one more bit of this one. This one is in honor of you guys as well. I found Claudia at Claudia Ruiz __. Okay, but nobody talks about how hot Johnny Tran is in The Fast and the Furious.
Oh, that's very
boy,
true.
Do we
have a podcast
for you?
I'm saying.
Because we did, and we do.
You definitely did. Yep.
This one says, in hell, Jared Leto's joke gives you a tribal tattoo and read the plot to all 29 Fast and Furious films for entirety.
Boy, do we.
We have a podcast for you. That's a good entry.
And Kevo, did you find one, or do you want to just take a pass this time and do it next time?
Nico, do you want to do my homework?
Oh, I genuinely love doing Kevo's homework for him.
It's been a good 10 years.
I did his homework for him when we were in college together. I had to marry him. He was just the most gorgeous man I've ever met. I needed to marry him, so I did his homework. It was really easy. I just did my homework twice and legitimately gave him the homework I did a less good job on.
That's so cute.
Only the requirements.
If it was an elective, I just kind of hung him out to dry.
So do you want to do his homework one more time? Or
Oh,
no?
yeah. Oh, I sure am.
Oh, he's looking.
So now while you look, I'm going to explain the next game. The next game is called Dude, What's My Car?
Oh, no, stop. This is more important than anything you'll ever hear in your life.
Okay.
33 minutes ago, OMG Adrian tweeted, I just found out that all the cars from the Fast and Furious series were cakes.
Oh,
that meme.
God.
Okay, yep, mm-hmm.
So relevant. Oh, my God. We didn't even talk about the cake shit lately. Oh, God.
They're all
Yes.
cakes.
Very
Boy,
perfect.
do we
We have a podcast.
for you.
Good tweet.
Perfect.
That's a great find.
Good job, guys. Kevo, great job on the homework.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I give you check plus. Check plus for sure.
Ooh, check plus. Look at you.
I would like
Check
to point
plus.
out that he graduated with a GPA in his core requirements worthy of National Honor Society. I take no responsibility for his electives.
So does that mean that you have 2 degrees? Are you counting do you count Kevo's as an honorary degree for you?
No.
Among many.
A degree of excellence for sure.
Okay, yeah, fair. So the last game we're playing is called Dude, What's My Car? And so the game started because I know nothing about cars and Joe knows a good amount about cars. And so people email us pictures of cars and I try to describe them for him and try to get him to guess them. And then we kind of play 20 questions sort of where you can ask yes or no questions and ask how to describe certain things and whatever.
Yeah.
So you both have the option. You can either play on my team and help give clues, or if you want to be on Joe's team and guess clues, you can do that as well. So it's totally up to you. I will forward you emails if you want to help give clues, or if you want to help guess clues.
I want to guess. I want to be a guesser. Kevo doesn't tend to like to play games, so he's just on my team. I want to guess. I thought we were going to get to pick our favorite famous car, and I was like, I want the Duckmobile from Darkwing Duck. Oh, we don't get to pick our own drag car. Or, because, my dream is to bring back the wacky races. That's, my actual dream, and I want to get, famous cartoon entities, but one of the jokes that I really want is I want the Snidely Whiplash character to be replaced by a good guy regular fixture in the form of RuPaul. So RuPaul has a regular car in the wacky drag races. I really want to bring this back as a cartoon. So I want to guess. I want to get ready for my car life.
I love having people on my team. Nobody ever wants to be on my team.
Nobody ever
so
wants
I
to be on Joe's
appreciate it.
team.
So thank
Joe
you.
Joe 2, I love being Joe 2B - Nico.
Okay, perfect.
So this car is from Jerry Robinson. Sent May 18th. Timely because we are so far behind on these.
Okay.
Subject line car pick. Hey guys, got a new one since the Ferrari FXX was too easy. He says this is a car from one of his favorite car manufacturers. It is a
Okay.
British car, okay?
British car. Okay.
It is a black car with yellow piping.
Yellow striping?
Well, I call it piping because like I'm saying piping like on a baseball jersey, like the the
Yeah,
lines
like-
that go like up and down the
that's
like, by the
piping.
buttons.
Like when
Okay.
you look at Gambit's costume, all of the detail work that separates the sections of Gambit's costume, that's his detail piping.
Yeah, so it's like it's
Okay.
not striping, it is more piping.
It's not like racing stripes down the middle. Okay.
No, correct, it's piping. It's a two-door car. There are, from what I can tell, 2 tires. I would assume that there are 4 tires.
Thank you. That helps.
I've never given that clue before. I'm surprised that didn't help you give it right away.
I'm
Yeah.
just supposed to be guessing the names of cars without Googling, right?
Yeah, don't cheat.
Okay, good. No, I'm definitely not Googling. But I mean, like, all I'm guessing is, like, British Bumblebee,
Yeah.
a school bus. Like, I'm just...
You know, I would say British Bumblebee is kind of a good name for this. It's not a Camaro. It's not at all like a Camaro. But it's not unlike a Camaro. That's probably a terrible clue. The headlights are round. They are big and round white headlights. There are small orange fog lights.
How many guesses do I get?
Infinity.
Infinite.
Aston
Yeah,
Martin.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's an Aston Martin.
No,
Okay, then I don't know any
Jaguar.
other British thing.
it's not a Jaguar. No.
Is it an MG?
Faulty
No.
Towers.
Over there, they call buses coaches.
J.K. Rowling is a turf.
The license plate is 4805R. It's not a McLaren.
So what fucking British car is it that's
It's
not
from
a Jaguar?
1972.
Is it a McLaren Neat?
You're fucking amazing. I'm gonna marry you again.
It is from 1972. So the back kind of makes it look like a back of an El Camino. Like it's kind of got a little bit of a truck bed, sort of.
Oh, okay.
But it's
Okay,
not as
okay.
deep.
It is a Queen's McQueen.
Over there, a truck is called a lorry, I think.
Actually, so that word, lorry, is actually pretty close. This is like a big hint, but I feel like we're getting nowhere.
Lotus?
The word lorry, it is a Lotus from
Okay.
1972.
It's an
Do you know
Elise. It's an Elise. Or an
No.
Exegy.
Nope. Nope.
I already did it. Stop guessing.
It's starting to sound like he's like, it's a locust! It's a locust committing genocide! Like, it's starting to get a little out there.
Cats and dogs living together.
It is a Lotus, but it's the name of a moon. Can you think of any moons that are models of cars?
That's no
No.
moon.
It's
a
the most.
space
It's probably the
station.
most famous moon of Jupiter.
What the fuck kind of science nerd are you?
I'm an astronomer, baby. That's my science.
Europa?
Is that really a thing? I didn't know that. Like, that you were an astronomy guy. I didn't realize that. That's really cool.
Yeah, like I love astronomy. I have not dabbled in astronomy in a while, but like far and away, my favorite science is astronomy.
No, what's the moon of Jupiter though?
It's a twist on a continent.
Europa.
The Lotus Europa, the 1972 Lotus Europa. See, like the back kind of has a little bit of like a El Camino kind of bed, sort of.
Yeah. Lotuses are very cool. I just saw one when I was in Pittsburgh. Rachel's stepdad Kevin has a Lotus Elise that he has in his garage that is very, very cool as well, that I've been in many times. So, yeah, this is cool. I had no idea what the Europa was, though. I would never have gotten the Europa. And the Lotus took me for a loop because, like, English car that is not an English car. Do you guys know about Lotuses? That, like, the new ones use, like... Okay, sorry. Lotus makes like a lot of like the bodies, but they don't make the engines of cars, so they like kind of like poach engines from other cars. So like the Elise will use like a Toyota Camry engine, but in like a sports car looking car, and then you have like a track car that you can drive around really fast.
I'm going to be honest. The thing that I know a lot about is European roller coaster manufacturers, actually.
Ooh.
If you had a question about an Intamin or Schwarzkopf steel coaster, I would be ready to talk to you about inversions and speed records, and I'd be
Ooh.
happy to talk about different models of roller coaster, but I just don't know a damn thing about European cars.
It's okay. No worries.
Well, that'll just about do it for this episode. You guys have survived your first full Too Fast, Too Forever.
Are you still
Thank
in it?
you.
Are you guys still in it? Are you
Thank
still
you so
okay?
much. Yeah, are you still engaged? Are you still invested? Are you still on board to talk about 8 more of these movies?
Yes, calm down, Spunky.
I am I'm like a savings bond. I'm invested for 50 years, so...
Wow.
That's
it
my
seems
kind of
fun.
man. Oh.
I'm a really big fan of Dancing with the One Who Brung Ya, so, like, if you're going down, you take the people that you're with down with you. I've committed to bringing you guys down with me. Let's start
perfect.
drowning.
Any
I'm
movie
down.
that starts with a heist that involves shooting a grappling hook
Ka-chang!
at a truck, there's nowhere to go but up with antics like that.
It's perfect.
Well, Joe, our next episode, one without Nico and Kevo, sad to say, but our next episode on Friday will be the movie Widows, starring
Nice.
lots of wonderful people, lots of strong female ladies. I think they
Yeah.
have not covered. Did they cover it? No, they did cover it recently on The Contenders. So if you want to do a pre-episode, The Contenders covered it. Widows coming on Friday, and then we'll announce next week on Friday. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/toofast2forever, or at Too Fast, Too Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at toofast2forever.com. You now know, we don't know yet as we're recording, but you now know the Too Fast, Too Forever Hall of Fame, the Fast and Furious Hall of Fame voters. So I can't plug that anymore, so that's done. Just send us a note, say hi, come back on Friday for Widows. You know where to find us. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Kevo Risse and Nico Vasilo of the Husbands Talking More or Less podcast. And we'll see you next time right here on Too Fast, Too Forever. Peace out.
Peace out.
You anus piecers.